Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 14 we're at of Third Man In. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Mike Hickey. I am joined by
it's Charles
and
it's Terry.
Terry's here with us today. Charles is here. We are all set to go. We got our guest Sheldon Souray coming up in just a little bit. We're excited to talk to him. He's one of Terry's old teammates from Tri-City, so it's you're going to get a bunch of beauty stories out of that. Of course, we are brought to you by Head Check Health. A huge thank you to them for sponsoring the show and helping us out in a lot of big ways. And but coming off that, one of the things we should say is Head Check Health is one of the ways we keep the show going, and one of the other things is something new that's happening. A couple of you guys, if you follow us on the social medias, have noticed.
Okay, you're gonna come after me for using.
I was baiting you.
That nickname I was using.
I was baiting you.
And you're gonna say
I was baiting you. But we threw up some pictures hinting at some merchandise, and we are happy to say that we got merchandise in. We've been planning to do this print on demand store for a while. We wanted to get a couple samples of stuff before because it's not something that we're going to maintain inventory on. It's just kind of done when you guys order it, if you guys order it. And so we wanted to get some samples in. We got them in. The quality's great. We're happy with it. So if you're listening right now, hopefully you're able to go to 3mipodcast.com, and that should be the store. It should have a bunch of other things. It's a place that you're going to be able to get old episodes and an easy way to find our feeds and all that kind of stuff. And we are launching that today, Tuesday. Well, this is Sunday, but it's going to be Tuesday when it launches, and you can get all that stuff then and there, and we'll be adding new things. There's the dad shirt that Charles was rocking on his Twitter earlier in the week.
It's actually the I call it the Uncle Wills shirt.
Okay.
I've got an uncle named Wilson, and he cannot. He just refuses to call them the Leaves. They're always the Leaves.
I got a buddy who's the same way. He calls them the Leaves.
The Leaves.
Terry is currently wearing a Third Man In shirt, which
I just got it. Yeah,
it looks nice. It's
pretty sharp.
Yeah,
nice blouse.
It's looking good on you. It's looking good on you. I like it.
We can confirm if it's good enough for us. Maybe it's good enough for you too.
If it's good, if it's good enough for us, it's probably not good enough for you. But still, we're gonna put it up there. So if you guys want to, you can go to 3mipodcast.com and get. I was actually in the process of getting the domain set up, and we were like, okay, let's hit record now. So we'll be all set and going from there. In the meantime, we got a few things to talk about before we get Sheldon on the line.
It's
so
our
let's get
first
into it.
episode into the playoffs, guys.
I know.
It's our first recording into the playoffs. This is my favorite 2-week period of the year. This is the first round of the playoffs.
While the 2-week period while the Leafs are in the playoffs.
Is this your favorite 2-week sports period? Are you including Christmas and George Street Fest? Really? So all the summer events?
Yeah, I'm including. I'm a pretty big Christmas guy because in St. John's. St. John's Christmas is really cool because a lot of people you haven't seen in a full year come back. They filter in, to the certain spots, and it's a real good catch-up time. But
I want to hear this.
That only lasts 3, 4. You can only justify a Christmas tear 7, 8 days. You know what I mean?
Christmas would come 3rd or 4th for me. But are you saying we're in Newfoundland? We don't get much sun. So my favorite 2 weeks would have to be in July, August, or September, or these days, October.
I'm a big October guy.
It's good temperature. It's still, I often say we get the seasons late here. We do get shitty weather.
Yeah.
Like this time of year, it's cold. That's why, to me, I got to be able to do something outside for it to be my favorite time of year. But this is my favorite sports time of year. But getting back to it, don't you find we get the seasons late? Like right now, it's starting to get nicer than it is here everywhere else. But when it comes to September and October, we're still having 20 degrees.
We're getting beauty.
It's snowing a lot of places.
We get really, really nice falls in Newfoundland. It's autumn in Newfoundland. It's always it is. We get summer late, and so a lot of times the beauty weather carries through. But the problem is that then we don't really get a fall. It's like we have a late summer that goes to mid-October. You get a week and a half of nice weather, and then it's snowing by Halloween.
Yeah, you flip a switch and it gets
I might say those are the months that it's possible to be warm.
Yeah,
it's not. It's not.
It's not guaranteed.
You could get fog for 3 weeks straight, and you're fucked. But in those months, July, August, September, October, it's possible. That we can go outside in a t-shirt. Well, I guess it's possible in June, but
I've been rocking the nice lightweight 3MI hoodie that I got. I was rocking that the last couple days without a jacket, and it was all right. We're getting it's the thing of the hopefulness of.
Oh, Sheila's coming.
I know, but I think for Chuck, I can throw it out and say it's the hopefulness of it. It's that you get the Leafs are in the playoffs. You know, the weather's starting to warm up a little bit. Maybe there's some.
Maybe that's our segue there. Let's talk about the Leafs.
Even if the Leafs aren't in though, these 2 weeks where you've got, and especially they've staggered the starts now, so you can hop. Like they're always a half hour off between starts.
And
this
basketball's starting to, and it's early time of year for Jays. I love it for all sports. Really. Well, not all because football's not happening, but in this little package, at around Easter time is always great every year. And I mean, what do you play for, right? You play for the playoffs. I mean, it always has this feeling of anticipation because, I mean, since September, we want to see our horses come home, right? So, and that's why, again, we'll get into it, but I, as well as many other people, are fucking blown away by what's happening in this year in the playoffs. I find it intriguing. The storylines, I don't know where the fuck they're going.
Where do we start? Where do we start?
We start with my two horses. I got every single person in every single playoff pool I have are from Tampa Bay or Winnipeg. And as we do this, they're both down 1-0.
2-0.
Sorry, 2-0.
And that actually brings me directly into. I hope this is the right button. Okay, yeah, no, that's the right button. Okay, 1 second. There we go. We want to talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets because, oh baby, what a fucking week they've had. They went on that crazy stretch. Like, after Tampa went up 3-0 in Game 1, Columbus outscored them the rest of the two games.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, 100%.
Here's what I want to say. We've been talking a lot about analytics versus emotion and everything. Now, what does John Tortorella do well? Everybody always quit. They might be, but what? You know what I mean? He's a guy. If he harnesses that energy the wrong way, he gets fired and someone fucking loses a contract, right? He can be. I won't say cancer because it's not him. I like Tortorella, but he can be bad or good depending on how that energy is concocted and how you harness it. And he's got those guys going. Did you see his speech before the game that they showed?
Yeah.
It was a great. He pretty much said it all. You know, we're going to have to fucking work at this.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Numbers are numbers. Let's go out. We're a hockey team too.
Yeah.
And this is what I mean. A lot of what Columbus are doing don't show up analytically. Of course it does when it's 5-1. But I mean a lot of the other stuff outside of the shot blocks and all that, because all that's kept on a meter right now, or all that's kept track of.
Yep.
But it's on the bench. Look at those guys go to war for each other. Did you see them chirping with all the guys, the benches chirping at each other?
Yeah.
Those guys are starting to pick up for each other. They believe in each other, and there's no stat for that. Now, who knows if they're going to win or they lose, but I like them this year. I didn't before this started. Of course, I like them when it's 2-0. But what I'm saying is the way that they're because last year they were up 2-0. But I thought last year was a successful year for them too. I know they ended up bombing out, but if Eller doesn't score that fluke goal in Game 3, last year was a better year for Columbus than people thought.
Yeah,
and they ended up. If you look back, they were a goal away from being 3 games up on the best team in the NHL last year. And now look what's happening. I mean, emotion can take you a long way. And I'm not one of those guys that says fuck analytics, because there's got to be something to be said for the statistics. I mean, I believe in science, I believe in statistics, but there's an underrated part of the game, and that's emotion. I can't believe as Canadians I got to keep drilling this home, but I do. We're getting too analytical, and the reason Columbus are winning is because they said fuck that, and they went out and played for each other.
I'm gonna jump in. Can I roll my hashtag hot take into this?
Of course.
I'm okay. I'm not gonna say I'm not impressed by Columbus. I'm not sold. They were in this. I've seen this movie before. They were in the same, situation last year. I will say the difference between last year when they jumped up 2-0 on the Caps, who went on to win the Cup.
Yeah.
There was that, and I think this is their chance. There was that fuck of an afternoon game.
Yeah.
And they were up 4-0 in that fuck of an afternoon game, and then the wheels came off. I can't believe they went on the road and they popped 9, 10.
They scored 9 goals. They were up. Tampa Bay came out. They started Game 1 up 3-0, and then Columbus went on a 9 and outscored them the rest of the 2 games in Tampa Bay 9-1. They went on they scored 7 unanswered goals.
Even if they jump up 3-0, I can still see them.
No, because it's this year's Tampa Bay Lightning and they're insane. But the thing I'm looking at is right now, Columbus came out. They took 2 games. Definitively, like they
ruined everybody's bracket.
Yeah, fucked up everyone's game. Like the comeback win in Game 1 was huge. Coming out with a statement of 5-1, and now Kucherov's suspended for a game.
That's why momentum's everything. If they don't go on that run in the first game, they probably lose Game 2. And you could see when you're down 2-0, Tampa, I felt for watching them. They were down 1-2, 3-0, and it's hard to get a goal when you're pressing. And when you're just not thinking about it and you're that good. But guys were getting frustrated. Look at Kucherov. I mean, I'm telling you, and Hedman was over chirping at the bench. That guy's injured anyway. I don't know. But this is the thing I wanted to bring up when it comes to this. A lot of people, I've often said it. Some people laugh at home ice advantage, but it really is. There are games that it really is an advantage. I remember my first game was in Philadelphia, and I was like trembling, and not just because, not out of like total fear, but you're going out there against the Legion of Doom at the time, and the fans really play a part. I mean, you almost feel like it's an extra attacker, and you want to go out and play your game, but you got to really mentally keep it together. But the thing is, and when playoffs come, you can use that to your advantage. And the way that I would do that as a player, and I'm sure they are now, is you bond. You go on the road. If you're at home, you know, you got your wife there, you got your kids if you got that. If not, you got your mistress or your girl or whatever it is. You got your business dealings, right? You got your wardrobe, you got your clothes, you got all that shit in the closet. You got your PlayStation nowadays, you got whatever it is. But there's distractions. Now you pack a fucking bag on your back, you go in to Tampa Bay, you get together, you get every goddamn person out for the team meal the night before. And you say, you know what, boys, because at home you don't have a chance to do that.
No.
Right? So you, not a chance, I guess you could do it, but when you go on the road, you're forced to spend time together, and it's a bonding thing. And if you can, Tampa's not really, I mean, they don't really have a physical team, and the fans aren't really that crazy. It's not like going into Philly. Right? It's not even like going into the Bell Center or Nashville. The fans get fucking crazy.
Nashville is like an insane hockey town.
Like,
where did that come from?
Right? They got some big players. Tampa
don't
have. Tampa are pretty well. They got Paquette. They got a few more that'll throw their weight around, but nothing that I'd really be worried about. They don't have that X factor of like 4 tough guys that you'd be scared to go in and play against. I mean, these guys, for the most part, Columbus just went and did their thing. And for me, it just says a lot about team bonding. And it's going to be some series. That's why you often look and you go, how did one team win, or the first 4 games all go road? An example, when the St. John's Maple Leafs, their first year here, they made it to the final against Adirondack. And the whole series was road. St. John's lost the final game in St. John's in overtime. Adirondack, that was their 4th road win of the series. So often, and I know that that's a factor, because when Adirondack were coming into St. John's, used to partying and everything in the regular season, now they come into a place that got some nice restaurants, got a decent fucking nightlife. You get together, you don't go out all night now, you go out for a nice meal, maybe have a beer with the boys, maybe a cigar, go into your bed, think about the game tomorrow. And AHL, NHL, East Coast League, fucking senior hockey, whatever it's going to be, often that road experience can be channeled in the right way, and you can come out of it on top, and I see that in Columbus.
Now, didn't I hear there was a team, I think it was last year, that went on a deep cup run that did hotels at home?
That was a big thing. I was going to bring that up. He brought up the Flyers. That used to be the Flyers policy, like much of the 90s and well into the 2000s. That once you made the playoffs, you left and
check out. You go into a hotel. Everything is treated like a road game.
I do believe I'd have to check on it, but I think that Flyers team that lost in the finals to the Blackhawks was they were in hotels. They didn't see their families or whatever like that. Saw them at the arena, and that was it. During the
but it was treated like road games otherwise. I
almost feel bad saying we, but when I was in, got a chance to taste a little bit of the NHL playoffs. I was a Black Ace, and I remember Alan Vigneault doing that. It was the whatever happened. They were playing Pittsburgh, and
is that the Alexei Morozov series?
No,
okay,
no. It was. I don't think. No, it wasn't. This would have been 98, 99. Or 97, 98, one of those years. And we went, when we got there, just Vigneault came down to the Black Aces. I remember him saying, because usually the Black Aces are there, you turn the stereo on, or, you get talking with the boys. The whole point is almost to make you feel like one of the, you're kind of being groomed to come along. It's usually prospects. So the team was really bonding with us, and they really made us feel like one of them. But I remember Vigneault saying, okay, guys, maybe this week we do less socializing unless it's with the team, and you come to our meals and stuff, but let's not throw the boys off. We don't want to know who you banged last night, kind of thing. Right? Because that's often what happens in the morning. Someone brings in donuts, and it's story time, and the vets come in. Oh yeah, the vets come in waiting for the rookie stories, right? Because usually there's more from guys that aren't married and shit. So that's a whole thing in the morning. I don't know if that's a whole thing.
I didn't know that.
Most teams I was on, some rookie brings in donuts and coffee, and then the vets are there early to hear the fucking stories that the boys got while they're stretching. And that's honestly, that morning slug time, a lot of people call it, you know, you just come in and in juniors say, you know, the guys that aren't in school. So, because people graduate high school. I mean, I took some college courses, some of us did, but that's its own schedule. It's easy enough, and some people don't do anything, so they call it slugs. So you're going in the morning to do your workout or whatever, and a lot of these stories that I'm telling you on this now, and a lot of slugs meaning, you know, you don't fucking do anything. Come in, get out of bed before practice. You know, everybody else is in school, and you know, work out or whatever you're going to do. It ends up being a fucking chat. So, you know, a lot of these stories that all you guys hear on these come out of those either slugs or, you know, when you get up to the show coming in the morning. Because if you're a rookie, I'm fucking serious. I think I'm joking, but you need to provide stories for the boys. Yeah. If you don't, it really goes a long way. Yeah. I'm serious. If you don't, people start almost questioning it. They're like, what the fuck's up with him, TR? Like, is he too fucking squeaky clean or what? People ask all the time. I'm like, you know, do they have beers in the NHL? I'm like, yeah, like, that's part of it. If you were going out and getting shit-faced all the time, I think someone would say something, but as long as it's not a problem, it can often be used as a bonus. I'm sure these guys, for example, are going out. You know, we'd go on the road. I remember in that series going to Pittsburgh, we went to Mort's Steakhouse. Yeah. Everybody went and had a steak and a couple beer. I think if you had ordered a shot or ordered 6 beer, it would have been different, but... You know, that was just part of the bonding experience.
Give me 9 road beer.
And guys aren't in the lineup. You guys can go out, green light. You better bang a 10 and tell us all about it in the morning. Just like that, too. Oh, fuck.
Okay. On that, though, I do have another question.
A lot of thirsty fellas in the playoffs. Yeah, some sense.
But all that, though, I do have another question about this Columbus Tampa Bay series, and it's for UTR. It's that, do you like how much of what's happening in that series right now has to do with the fact that Columbus have been fighting for their lives since February, and Tampa hasn't played a meaningful game since some time. I think they clinched the President's Trophy in fucking early September. It feels like
December. I think.
It's like
Christmas.
The fact that they have.
Can you say that again? I was watching the game. We had a live feed on here. And
this is the first time we've done this.
I have no idea what you just said.
I was saying, do you think that what's happening in that Tampa Bay Columbus series has anything to do with the fact that Columbus has been fighting for their lives since February or March just to make the playoffs, and Tampa Bay has been coasting all year? Like, they clinched the President's Trophy in December or whatever the fuck it was.
That can work for you or against you. And put it this way, it works against you when you get down early because you're pressing, and then you're supposed to. If you come out, if Tampa wins the first game, I think a lot of that pressure's off, but now they're pressing, right? Now every single time they got the puck, people are saying, you know, show me the magic. Where are you? I want to see this 80s Oilers fucking record-setting offensive team that you guys got. So, and I find Columbus, outside of all, but you're right, yes, to answer your question, yes, totally, I think it's a disadvantage. And, you know, Columbus are playing great D.
Yeah.
You see at the end of that game, you couldn't get a shot, or the last game, you couldn't. It was 4. They were up by 4, and still you couldn't get a shot to the net. They were collapsing.
An arm or a stick or an ass in front of everything. It was something to watch.
Not enough is said about a team that's confident on D. People always talk about, their confidence, and their confidence is up, and it's always associated with scoring and confidence offensively. But Columbus are a team that's getting more and more confident defensively. And it's not brought up enough, but if you watch them, there's guys out there that are trying to block shots because that's the stat that they're going after.
Yeah.
They might not get a goal or an assist, but or they might, but they're going out there essentially to play D and shut guys down, and they know what they got to do. And as I say it, I'm looking at the Islanders do the same fucking thing. Not that they don't have their fucking gunners. I love Barzal. Yeah. Man, that guy is impressive, especially when you look at his junior numbers. They were real good, but they weren't. You wouldn't expect this absolute fucking magician. But, you know, they're out there now. As I say this, Sidney Crosby's cursing on his way to the box. Just that's what these teams got to do. Teams like the Islanders, and God bless them, they are team tough. They are pretty good. I don't think they're as offensively stacked as the Penguins, but the Penguins aren't very deep. So that's the interesting thing there. You got a deeper team versus a team that might not be as deep, but at any 5-minute stretch can get 5 goals.
I got to ask this. So back to the Penguins, and Mike asked the question about urgency. The one thing I've noticed, and I've watched a fair bit of this Penguins series because I really like Robin Lehner. I like the Robin Lehner retribution story, and I really like he at the end of game 2 he threw a stick out for a kid, and a grown ass man took it, and he was just like he looked at the man and was like, buddy, that guy. And like it looked like he was going to fight a fan. But anyhow, how much do you think this Penguin series might be the fact that they've won 2 cups in the last 3 years, and yet at some point you might have to move a couple of, like the bulk of that team has been a core on 2 cups. You might have to shuffle a couple of pieces around to get some hungry guys there. You know, how much you've got?
No, there's validity to that. Is that the word?
Yeah, I think so.
I like what you're saying there.
I don't like to validate anything Chuck says, but I think you're right. There is some validity there.
Well, some people would have a sense of complacency. I don't
that's
think
what I was looking for. Yeah. I just feel that's what I kind of feel like.
I think that happened in L.A.
Yeah, that's a great example.
I don't know if they consciously, but I mean, it's easier to ease up when you got 2 or 3 cups. Right?
In my opinion, they've got if they got every bit of mileage they're going to get out of guys like Brandon Rust right now. Like he's peaked. They got every bit of mileage out of him, and I kind of when I'm watching this Penguin series, it's almost like the old lion versus the young lion. Sometimes the old lion hangs on, and I'm not saying the Pittsburgh Penguins are old. Yeah. I'm just saying they've been to back-to-back cups. Last year,
tiring too.
Oh Jesus Christ! Yes,
you know it's a tiring. It's the NHL playoffs are the hardest fucking thing to do in sports. I'm convinced.
Oh, 100. I completely agree with that. And I think another thing to look at is say the Pats, like the New England Patriots and the dynasty they've built. The only consistent pieces throughout that are generally Brady and Belichick, and every other like.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts.
Each time that they go on a run and win, 2 or 3 Super Bowls in the span of a couple of years, it's always a different kind of core, you know? And other than some, like, names like Gronkowski or Edelman or whoever, a lot of the times those pieces are moving in and moving out, and you've got guys that are coming in and are just fucking hungry for it. And you get a lot of, like, journeymen who kind of land there and stuff, and...
Well, I think that's a big part of those 2 Penguins Cup runs. Like they found Schultz out of a press box in Edmonton and dropped him into a cup favorite. Not only a cup favorite, but my sweet suffering, did he ever? That first cup they won against the Sharks.
Yeah,
they had Letang out for the rest of the series. That man went from a plug in a press box to Edmonton where he couldn't smell the ice to a hero in the playoffs. Like he was running the show.
Yeah.
And not to take anything away from them, but it's like maybe that's the most gas you're going to get out of this guy. Maybe there's a couple of small moves you make while you still have Crosby and Malkin before they age out to kind of build around and flourish around. Like I'm watching them literally right now because the screen is on, and I'm not seeing much besides the 3 big names: Crosby, Malkin, Kessel. Chris Letang is still there.
Yeah.
I've got a quick question.
Okay.
Actually, go on.
Yeah, I'm just not seeing the supporting cast is just not. They're getting caught. They're not.
But the supporting cast is just not as good.
Yeah, they're just not stellar.
I mean, how could they be?
But they're the
when you're saying the
same.
nucleus,
but much of the supporting cast is the same. It's not that big. I mean. But
Chicago and Penguins and teams like this can do that because their stars are fucking unreal.
Yeah.
So they can still hang in and maybe even make the playoffs. Well, eventually it catches up to you. And what they've won on between Pittsburgh, I find... Oh, my God, that's from behind.
Yeah,
that was rough.
Pittsburgh, I find... How do I say... their stars have really stepped up. It's not one of the... It's like if the Islanders win this year... I don't know that would be the case. Maybe it would, but they're going to have to be real deep while doing it. The Penguins have won cups, and some guys on their team, like despite some of the way they played.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's like if the Leafs win, we all agree that at some point their D is going to shit the bed. Hopefully not 4 games out of a series. But if the Leafs win, there are major holes in that lineup.
Oh yeah,
they can still win. But the Penguins have done that.
Yeah.
Like they've made a dynasty out of less than the Oilers had in making their dynasty.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, like so. But you always look and see Crosby, Malkin, Letang. You always look and see Taves, Kane, Keefe, Seabrook, and these guys. You know, the Bolins have come in and done and really helped them. They always have that supporting cast but these guys a lot of the time are just grown or noticed from within because you got great scouting in the organ. And I don't mean drafting either. It's guys you trade for. Chicago just traded for Strome, and he's coming out of Dylan. Was it in Phoenix? And he's a great scorer. People thought he scored in Erie because of McDavid, but when McDavid wasn't there, he fucking ripped it up too.
Yeah.
Now Chicago are getting some scoring out of him. The Rangers are doing that with his brother Ryan. So
there's 3 of those guys, right?
yeah, there are.
Yeah.
And
Like a rolling stone.
yeah, you know, a lot of times, you know, the great are so, and Pittsburgh have also, whichever goalie's been in, ridden great goalies.
Yeah.
And they've come up hot at the right time. Fleury
Yeah.
has come up hot at the right time. Murray came up hot. I don't think Murray's as good as he played. I don't think he'll ever be as good as he let on in those playoffs a couple of years ago. Nothing against Murray, but I mean, some of those games.
I mean, Murray played so well in
Yeah.
those cup runs that he managed to convince them it was okay to get rid of Marc-Andre Fleury.
Yeah, to give up assets to get rid of Marc-Andre Fleury. They sent a pick that way for them to take him, and that's kind of like, once again, that's kind of what I was saying. It's like there's supporting cast members that I think the Pittsburgh Penguins are in a situation where they've got guys, and more than one guy, who can just say, "All right, fellas, you can take a night off, hop on, I got this." But I think sooner or later that the supporting cast there, either that or you do a rebuild. The supporting cast there, I don't think it's there this
Something
year.
else I find interesting. Now, we talk about players with less than spectacular teams that step up, right? And if you got 1 or 2 even, you can make a run.
What a save!
Oh, man. Headbutt save.
So if you got 1 or 2, you can even make a run for it.
Yeah.
I'm going to get shit for saying this. Why can't McDavid do that? If again next year they don't make it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody tells me I don't think he's the best player in the world. I'm glad he's Canadian. I think he's the second best player in the world. Don't tell me. To me, I love Sidney Crosby. I still do. Until if this so-called best player in the world,
You're right.
makes the playoffs at least. Don't call him the best player in the world, because Crosby's taking teams. Now, they got Draisaitl, too. He has 50 fucking goals this year.
They wasted a 50-goal season out of Draisaitl.
Yeah, they did. So, but what I'm... Yeah, you're right.
Oh, yeah.
They've got those 2 guys. They do have some other parts that are okay, right? They got Nugent Hopkins.
For now.
For one, yeah. But again, I'm not saying he's great, but I mean, he'd fit in on Pittsburgh, and maybe Crosby turns that... It's just something to me. You've got to... There's something you got to learn to be a winner. Alex Ovechkin learned to do it. He's skating harder now in the playoffs than he did 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And having Crosby, his peer and his number one, arch nemesis, I guess you could say, do it. Don't tell me he didn't learn from it. He did, and he learned how to be a teammate. So why? I'm not so much shit. Maybe the
But
fingers.
is that why? Is that why McDavid's not doing it? Because with Crosby, it was always Crosby versus Ovechkin. It's McDavid versus nobody. He doesn't
maybe,
have
but
that same kind of
I don't know. If
generational
you're supposed
talent.
to be the best in the world, though, I don't think you need that motivation. Well, you do have it. Crosby is his Ovechkin.
Yeah, but
right? Last year...
But that's like comparing the Leafs Habs versus Leafs Bruins or Habs Bruins rivalries. It's like one of them doesn't matter to everybody. If
most
the rival doesn't think you're the rival, it doesn't count.
But
right?
But they do though. Most people were. If I was to sit here and say who's the best hockey player in the world, the most names would come up would be Ovechkin would be in there. But I would think, especially if you ask a Canadian, Crosby, but most people would say McDavid.
Yeah.
But what I want to say, okay. It's 3 years, though.
Yeah.
Like, okay, if you are the best in the world, take the team at least to the playoffs. At least something. I'm not saying it's McDavid's fault at all. I don't think it is. I feel for the kid, and I think he's going to win a Stanley Cup. But there's something to be said for learning to win. And it's just funny to me that the best player in the world is on a team that can't make the playoffs, and he's got a couple of supporting parts that are pretty good, at least enough to make me the 16th best team.
Yeah.
Yet, these other teams, Chicago nearly made the fucking playoffs again. I know they got a little deeper. Pittsburgh, they're battling every year. If Crosby and Malcolm were on Pittsburgh, would that happen? How would they do?
Yeah.
How about perhaps it's we got to separate best player from best leader? Maybe McDavid's just not a leader. Maybe he's
learning to be one.
Yeah, and
what's he led his junior team to a non-Memorial Cup?
That's the one thing that bugs me about naming your best player as a captain. It always has bugged me. It bugged me when they named Sidney Crosby as the captain. I remember when they named Sidney Crosby as a captain, and my pick was either roll no captain, which I think is an underused tool for young teams and young cores, or Brooks Orpik.
Well,
Brooks Orpik.
I know, but okay.
Yeah.
Who got the game winner yesterday?
I'll tell you why I disagree with that.
Okay.
Because I think McDavid, there's exceptions, McDavid and Crosby, they've had to be leaders.
Yeah.
I'm not so much questioning. I think he is a leader. I just think Crosby is Crosby's up there with Messier and Yzerman as the best leaders ever.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to learn it. But he's a leader. Like, he's been singled out since he's 12 years old for interviews, like, all the time. He's had to put himself above the team, even though he didn't want to. In Erie, on the World Juniors, he's had to learn to share the spotlight. He's had to learn to have to answer questions after every game. He's got more experience being Connor McDavid and being the leader, even though he doesn't want to be even sometimes. But he's got that, whereas Kessel never had that. And well, because they're grooming you to be the captain. And in order to groom you to be the captain, like, at some point, if you draft Connor McDavid, he's going to be your captain. If we get a shitty team, let's do it right away so he'll learn. Sidney Crosby, I'd sit down Brooks Orpik and say, now everybody knows that you should be the captain, but this is our captain in waiting.
Yeah.
Now help him out. Sidney's going to wear the C, okay?
Yeah.
Right? So different than if it's Alexei Yashin that doesn't deserve it in the first place. Right? But you knew that these guys were going to be the captain. So if they come into a shitty team, Edmonton made Jason Arnott assistant in his captain in his first year. I know I'm dating myself a bit. It's the first time I ever heard of that, but I remember Arnott being assistant captain the first year. What did he end up being? A leader. Yeah. He went to Nashville. I'm not sure if he was the captain, but he was a leader.
I'm on it.
But he was definitely assistant. I find a lot of guys, you just know it, and if there's one good thing about playing on a rebuilding team, it's that you can make McDavid captain, and by the time they're good, which should be, I'm not necessarily, I don't mean this to be shitting all over Connor McDavid, but the question needs to be asked, especially if I'm biased to it, but for a few reasons. But Sidney Crosby, okay, is my favorite player.
Yeah.
The best is so subjective that no one could ever tell you that answer.
Yeah.
But of all the good ones, he's got something. He's got that Gretzky and Lemieux in them. If you give him the timing, Team Canada, Olympics, goal. How many times? His first game in Montreal, hat trick. Fucking water bottle off the net.
Yeah.
Gretzky, his 802nd goal, where was it? Back in Edmonton.
Yeah.
Right? Lemieux scored on his first shot.
Yeah.
It's just always, and happened to have the puck when it was 6-5 against the Russians, where he put it upstairs, Russians. It's just, these guys have and the leaders seem to step up and find a way. Like, there's
well, it's like we were joking about it before we came on and started recording today. We were joking about, like, playing rec hockey, and you were saying how, like, in beer league or rec, you'll usually kind of skate around with the puck and you won't shoot unless you're down a bit, but otherwise you're always looking for the pass. Sidney Crosby plays that way in the fucking NHL.
I know, yeah.
Like, that's not you being a former NHLer who's out with me and a bunch of guys. That's Sidney Crosby in the NHL.
He's made a lot of careers for people.
He's got that level of just, like, turning it up when he wants to turn it up, and that's crazy.
That's what you also need in hockey to be a leader. You see, the whole year goes by. No one plays 100% all year. It's too hard. Hockey's too hard of a sport. Yeah. I've often said it. There's way too many games. If you want to get the most out of these guys, there's too many games, but owners are owners, and when they want money. So, and so do players, but trust me, if the schedule could be 40 games and part of the money, people would go for it.
74, I always thought would be the best number. You shave...
I think 40. 40? That's right. I don't think it'll ever have... The numbers that I
never
think...
Get that.
No, but it's just such a demanding sport. Everybody's playing injured, so you get guys like Crosby, they have to go out and work hard, but the playoffs... You really see them step it up, right? And there's no way to do that other... You got to conserve something, whether it's... if you're young, whether it's fucking not going out, whether it's some people like Crosby, it's actually overtraining. Like, normally you would probably ride the bike after every game. You go through a workout regimen. Crosby now is just loading and unloading, loading and replenishing, loading, replenish, loading, replenish. He's got one job to do. He's going home. He's fucking sleeping, everything hockey. Not saying that they're all not in that position, and they are, and that's the life of an NHL playoff player. But Sidney Crosby's got so much competitiveness and what's the word? Yeah, competition in him that I think you're always going to maximize. You're going to see him maximize his potential, and that rubs off on other guys. So I'm not, when I sit here, to go back to it, shitting so much on Connor McDavid, although I do find it funny that a lot of people, most people in the media, just automatically say he's the best player in the world, where, again, analytics...
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of it are his, like, quote-unquote underlying numbers and all that
They
stuff.
are, but look at Sidney Crosby and look what he's done in every team he plays on, and do you ever hear him complain? It's just, he's, to me, the Mark Messier, Steve Yzerman of today's, today's NHL.
How did that
outside of a lot of other things, but...
We could never have a fucking game on while we're recording again because Chuck's like,
yeah, this is an interesting. But if you're listening to this on Tuesday, we're watching Sunday afternoon's Penguins Islanders game,
and also I've got the Cataracts Breakers Game 5 of the Hurdler going on another screen here at the same time.
Anyway, I've never seen more goofy.
That's
bounces.
still 1-1, by the way.
I've never seen more goofy bounces keep the puck out of the net than this second period for the Islanders.
I mean, I saw Robin Leonard just headbutt one.
Yeah, he headbutted one out. There was one just then where I don't know how it stayed out of the net. It was, it's almost like they're playing with one of those like gym bouncy balls out there or something. It's
quick question.
Yep.
Why does soccer in Canada suck?
Soccer everywhere sucks.
Nope, but this is the thing on a world level. I really want to know the answer to this. If someone involved in, I've tried to look at it. Canada is rated, I just looked last week, like let's say 120th.
Yeah.
Like there's like Papua New Guinea is ahead of us. I know it's a different sport, but does anybody know the answer to that? We got training facilities. We should at least be able to beat Saudi Arabia. Should we not? Or like, do they? Am I wrong, or do these?
The only thing I know about soccer is I once walked across the pitch that the MLSE team, what are they called? The Toronto FC?
Yeah.
I left a Bob Dylan concert once, got lost.
Come on, it's the most popular sport in the world. I don't watch much, but I mean, I watch the Premier League and stuff. You guys don't know what's happening?
Yeah, no, I have no idea. I literally ended up.
I cannot care enough. Like, it's just, I always say, like, if I have a bunch of problems with soccer, not the least of which is just the flagrant diving and how brutal all that shit is. But I have a bunch of ways to fix soccer, but it's kind of transparent because I think for one,
enlighten me, Mike. I have a bunch of ways to fix soccer.
I think for one, the field's too big. So you make the field smaller, and then you got to make the net smaller if that's the case. But then if it's
for your liking, a fan that doesn't watch it, and we got millions of people around the world.
I'm trying to do a bit here, Terry. I got a whole thing that's just the field's too big.
I'm not sitting here rah soccer. I've only recently gotten into it, and that's why I want to know. I can't believe our numbers go right back to it. But my point being, in the NBA, for example, now we got like 25 fucking NBA guys, or in the Canadians. Sorry, 25 Canadians or something like that. In baseball, you see Canadians popping up everywhere now in these sports that traditionally we didn't. I mean, look, it's snowing half the year here. Yeah. But in soccer, for some reason, and I mean, we have a Team Canada.
Yeah.
There's training facilities everywhere. We got a lot of people that have the means. A lot of these places you go and they just have a soccer ball and that's it. And I get it. I get the whole point behind that too.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious, and I thought maybe on a sports show you guys would have an idea about soccer, but I'm just talking to the wall, and that's not because I don't know.
I think the issue
I just got into it,
and I think the issue is that it's not the same sort of profile in Canada. I think the problem,
though, man.
It's big, like you said, it's the biggest sport in the world.
It is the biggest sport in the world. Yeah.
But in North America, the big sports are, it's baseball, basketball, football, hockey. Those are the big four. And I think because of that, anybody who has a lot of like that natural athletic kind of ability that in other countries it gets channeled into soccer. I think soccer, as much as everybody plays it now, kind of every kid coming up is playing soccer and stuff. I think it's not, for a lot of Canadian kids coming up, it's just not the one. If you're picking a sport, it's not the one that that caliber of athlete is often picking. And so because of that, the guys that would probably be the lights out soccer players are playing basketball or baseball or hockey because they're higher profile sports in North America.
I don't know anything about it, but
I'll tell you this. Indoor soccer in Lab West, arena soccer or whatever it goes by, indoor soccer, fucking huge.
Yeah,
they get the Lab Cup. There's...
So Rwanda are ahead of us.
Yeah.
That makes sense to you?
No.
Ecuador?
I mean, everybody.
Like some of these...
I don't think it's considered. I just don't think it's considered a serious sport pursuing in Canada. I just don't think. I don't
really?
think it's ever.
The numbers outnumber hockey. That's why I'm saying it. I'm just reading these articles.
Yeah.
Like Mount Pearl, for example, where it's dominant. You got no baseball anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up playing both. It's dominant. Everybody plays soccer. There's more people involved and Mount Pearl's a hockey community. Yeah. I'm guessing that all over Canada, it's mirroring that. If you look at BC, Vancouver, and Toronto, the numbers are just staggering. There's more people in those places involved in soccer than hockey. I find it, and I know it's a hockey podcast. I find it curious, though. I'd love to know. I think we must be doing a real shitty job.
Oh, definitely.
With the money we got and the people.
Oh.
Like our registration is in the millions.
Yeah.
Right? So how can Ghana, who I'm not judging Ghana on anything other than they don't have the amount of people or the money that we have.
I was going to say, how many people are in that country?
But again,
I don't know. I don't really
like
know.
You said, but
Papua New Guinea, for fuck's sakes.
But again, like you said, soccer's not about the money. And like it just comes down to somebody with a ball. That's all soccer is. And so I think it comes down to, the idea.
Afghanistan. Did you know they played in Afghanistan?
I did actually. No,
Really?
I do know.
They're
I do know
ahead of us?
soccer is big.
I didn't know they had. I didn't know they had grass in Afghanistan.
Maybe I got to. Maybe I'm media influenced, and my idea of Afghanistan is not people running out soccer moms. I don't picture soccer moms in Afghanistan. I'm sorry.
No,
I just
but
don't.
It's
Isn't
just,
there a level
of
fear, or is there a part of Afghanistan that's totally like fucking utopia?
I'd say Qatar is big on that list.
Qatar, I can see though.
Yeah,
Qatar, I can see.
Yeah.
No, I know soccer.
Places that are involved in wartime right now that have 1/50th of our population that beat us and that we can't possibly have a hope to beat. I just don't understand it. How we're like number 180 on the world ranking. How many countries? I didn't know there's that many countries.
There's
anyway.
There's more countries involved in FIFA than there is in the UN. I think maybe. There used to be a bear trivia.
Anyway, next topic. I hate to bring it to that.
I had a whole thing. My whole thing was just this joke about how that I used to toy with when I played with the concept of stand-up comedy about how I try to make soccer better, and basically I just wind up turning it into hockey.
Yeah,
it feels too big, so we make it smaller. But then we make the thing smaller, and then we just give them sticks. And then, if you're at sticks, it's going to be easier to move it if it's on ice and bubble, and it's the whole thing. Because I think hockey is a much better sport. But that's just
I'll tell you this: the athleticism level of all of those big sports we named off, soccer's tops.
Yeah.
How many fucking miles are you running a match?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get off this ramp. Let's
next topic. Hey, you guys are the ones keep bringing it up. You don't know anything. You both said you knew jack shit about it, and every time I say let's move off, you go back to it. You know nothing about the sport or my question.
I played soccer as a kid.
You played fucking soccer. Yeah, okay. You played as a kid.
Yeah.
Okay, enough. But I played as a kid too.
I was on my junior high team.
So do you think that you are in authority to talk about the size of the field?
Jesus Christ, no. It was a
that's
joke.
What I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well,
but I'm not in authority to talk about any hockey shit either. Have you seen me play? You've seen me play hockey. I shouldn't be talking to anybody about hockey.
Fellas, let's how about we talk
on to the next topic.
Yeah, one thing. We're going to do our intentional offside. I got an intentional offside.
Sure, yes, go for it. Go for it because I don't have our guest number. So I don't have our guest number, and I was going to wake him up with the phone call. So now I don't know what's going to happen. Anyway, go ahead.
This segment is called the Wake Up Call with our guests, groggily answering questions.
All right, what's your offside?
Nazem, you guys are going to be listening to this on, I guess you'll be listening to this on Tuesdays when we usually do it. So God knows where the goddamn Bruins-Leafs series is going to be by then. Nazem Kadri.
It's going to be in Toronto, isn't it? That's where it's going to be? Zing.
Nazem Kadri.
Yep.
Sweet suffering Jesus, what was he thinking last night? It's been everywhere today.
I mean, and I said this to you. This is a disclaimer. When I was watching this game, I was at the St. John's Curling Club. It was during a Bonspiel party. The game was on. I was watching, but I couldn't hear it. And I was watching, but couldn't hear it, and was kind of in and out because I was dealing with a bunch of people. So I was watching the game, but a lot of this stuff that was going on between Kadri and DeBrusk, I was kind of missing and just catching in replay.
There was really nothing. Okay, well, the stuff that was going on with Kadri and DeBrusk.
It's just playoff shit.
Yeah, it's playoff stuff. The knee hit, should have been a penalty. Should have been a penalty. We'll agree with that. However, I'll drink that. That's only coffee grout. However, he takes a stick and cross-checks a guy in the jawline. Why didn't he just drop his gloves and start pummeling him? Why didn't he just be like, okay, fuck that, I'm going after you. Off come the gloves. Get 5 or 6 with
Kadri and Jake DeBrusk.
Yeah, and Kadri do that?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, because he's a cheap shot.
Well, yeah, fair enough.
So he's a cheap shot artist, and DeBrusk just even having known that his father was a tough guy, he's probably scared shitless. Russ plays hard. I don't know if he's as tough as Louis, but he plays hard. And Kadri is a cheap shotter. Like, I'm not saying that he wouldn't drop his gloves. I think if the situation was right, but Kadri's going to do it on his terms. And his terms is breaking your fucking jaw with his fucking stick first. And people that still are surprised at that, I don't know. I love the guy. I think he could be the best third-line center in the league if he puts his mind to it.
Or if he fucking plays.
If he's not suspended. He did this last year.
Yeah, he did. It was actually a year to the day. So it was April 3rd.
If he's temperamental.
It was April 13th, 2018. He got suspended for 3 games, I think.
3 games.
For Tommy Wingle.
So it's a temper, and they give him leash. Like, so if he's like that with his temper, what do you think happens when things aren't going his way and he gets benched? Chances are guys like that are always in the room. They'll probably fucking not be great. Maybe he is, but I'm saying usually if the signs are there, he knew. Last year he came back from the same thing and said, I'll never do it again. I'm sorry, I let the boys down.
He said at the start of this playoffs the same thing. I'm smarter now and shit.
Yeah, unless the exact same thing happens and I lose my mind. I won't do it again unless I do it again. I promise I won't do it again unless I do it again.
So what do you got the suspension
I was watching.
What do you got the suspension at?
I fucking suspend him for this. I give him 10 fucking games. 10? Fuck that. Right. That's a cross-check in the goddamn face. I would fucking lose my mind if he did that to me.
This is what you were talking about last week. We were talking about how in hockey, you have a fucking weapon in your hand, and your first reaction whenever things drop it and fucking deal with it with your hands. And that's not what the fuck he did. He used his fucking weapon as a weapon.
There is more. I guarantee it. I know what happened back then. I mean, my day, I'm not saying it was fucking innocent of all, but you'd have to have your head up for sure. It was overall rougher, but there was less of that shit. I mean, the odd person like Bird Dog, I mean, that's no different than those stories I tell. And that happens all the time. Look at Josh Morrissey last year, too. Remember that one? Holy fuck. Like, honestly, guys, I don't remember my whole career. Now, I don't know if it's because I made room for myself. I know that's part of it out there. But I don't remember once getting cross-checked in the face like Kadri just did. I'm telling you right now.
And I feel like you'd remember it, right?
Yeah, I think you would remember that.
What the fuck, man? That's a cross-check in the face.
And I was watching that game, and I remember, like, as the game started, watching it and just saying, like, seeing them kind of go back and forth. And I was like, man, I can't wait for this to just boil over and have them kick the shit out of each other. Like, I was waiting for the fight. And it never
happened. It was just a fucking. It was
just cheap shot to cheap shot. And yeah, like you said, like there should have been something called on that neon knee. Something should have been called. But that doesn't give you.
I was bringing it up.
And Marlowe was a little too close to the fucking.
I don't even consider that. That was just
that was just bad placement on the ice. Exactly. He was a little too close to where the glass started for my liking.
I don't think he ran him or anything like that.
I don't think.
I'll say
it was a hit. It was just clean. It was a relatively clean hit.
An old skipper today. I rewatched the hit on my phone as I was on the bike this morning. And an old skipper was on the bike next to me. And he couldn't help but notice what I was watching, and he looked over and he said, "What's the difference between that and when McSorley did the 2-hand crack?" He said, "The only difference, in my opinion, is it wasn't a golf swing." He said McSorley went out. He was looking for a guy to do that to.
Yeah.
And he said Kadri was looking for that. And he said that's why it's going to be a big suspension. If it was just anyone and he cross-checked him in space, maybe it's 3 games. He said, but the fact that he was looking for that guy is why you're probably
the fact that he was waiting to do that to Jake DeBrusk.
I think you're dealing with, if it were me, I wouldn't throw a number of games at it per se, as I would say he's done for this round, regardless. This round and a game of the next. So if this goes to 7, that's 5-1.
Here's the other question,
the way I do it.
If that's the case,
I don't even think you can do that in the CBA.
If that's the case, here's another question for you. Will we ever see Nazem Kadri wear a Toronto Maple Leaf sweater again?
Well, you shouldn't. I would. That'd be it for me. Unless you know when his redemption time is, whenever he gets back, if they're still in, and that's it. He'll have to come back now on everybody else's terms, because that's the way I would look at it. If I was Babcock, and I mean, he coached against me in junior my whole junior career. I got buddies played for him. We talked to Podolin. Intense was the word Podolin said. Yeah. Now, if you got an intense coach that wants to win, that's being paid $50 million fucking dollars to do it, whatever it is, to win for Toronto and bring back a cups in '67, do you think he likes spoiled little brats out there doing that?
No.
Do you think he enjoys that shit? I wouldn't even have him playing again. I'd say, sit the fuck down. You're better off away from the rink. He'd be gone. No, not on the first time. Don't get me wrong. But this is enough.
Yeah, and I mean it's
I
proven
honestly
time
think
and time again that
last
this is the case.
suspension, though, I think the last one, like last year's suspension, wasn't half as bad as this. Like I think they threw the book for that 3-game last year.
Yeah,
he could have got away. Like it's very similar to the Kucherov hit.
It was super similar to the Kucherov hit, but
Kuch got one.
Yeah, but Kucherov is also Kucherov. He wasn't a repeat offender and all that kind of stuff.
Given the NHL's definition of repeat offender, it's you got to have a suspension in the last season. Kadri wasn't suspended last season, so he wasn't technically on paper a repeat offender, but they threw the book at him anyhow, regardless. I think we cool it on the whole trade talk situation. Is it plausible? It was plausible they were going to trade Nazem Kadri in the offseason anyhow, given the cap crunch, and you got a couple of guys who are cheaper and capable to handle that third-line center.
And are going to stay in your lineup when you need them to be
exactly.
there.
And is it plausible that they don't move him? Well, you'd be selling awfully low, in my opinion.
Fuck, would I love to fight him, man. I would love it. That's one thing. Sometimes, you know...
Speaking of someone you'd love to fight, did you see Avery's comment about it?
Oh, Jesus. Why are we fucking asking this guy stuff?
I saw Avery on with Biz. Biz did a thing on YouTube, and Avery hauls a smoke out of his... lights up the dart, and I'm like, he's just trying too hard. I can't get into that guy.
Yeah, why are we still asking
he might even
Sean
smoke.
Avery
He might even
things?
smoke, but he clearly wanted everybody to know that I'm a rebel. I'm James Dean. I smoke, and I played in the NHL. I get it, man. Whatever. Go do your rips or do whatever the fuck you got to do. Bang your fucking Hollywood 10s. It's all good. I wish him the best. I just wish that I have nothing to do with it, nor do I ever see it. And I just, you know, I do. I don't even know the guy, but doesn't that bother you?
No, it drives me nuts. I
just don't know why we're asking. I don't know. Once again, I don't know why we're spending this fucking 38 seconds talking
You're
about
right.
Sean
On to
Avery.
the next thing.
All right.
Yes.
On to the next thing.
Here's the thing I mentioned just while we're still talking about the Bruins-Leafs series. One thing that I caught myself thinking about last night that I was shocked by, and that was I realized that I want one of those two teams to raise the cup this year. Like it's a Bruins-Leafs series. Obviously, I want the Bruins because they're my favorite team. But honestly, if the Bruins lose and the Leafs get through, it's the Leafs I want coming out of it, and I realized that it was a shocking.
Like you had an epiphany. What are we supposed to do?
It was that thing of like,
okay,
no, it's just
supposed to give you a present or
what
something.
are we supposed to do? Freak out? Who's third? Who's third?
The Sharks.
Who's third? I'm bringing my fingers together like Mr. Burns.
The Sharks. I go with the Sharks,
perfect.
but no,
Who's
it was
fourth?
just I don't know.
I really want.
But no, it was just I was just surprised to catch myself. I was just
I know. What
I was surprised to realize that during that series, I was just thinking to myself like, geez, you know what? If the Leafs win this, I'd like to see them go right through.
I hope I'm wrong, but there's a couple of reasons I don't see this Leafs team being the Leafs team to win it. Compete level, I just they get caught playing other people's game. I knew 4 seconds into last night's game, I knew that the Leafs were going to lose that game. And the reason I thought so is because you got the opening face-off, and then all of a sudden everybody's fucking scrambling to change to play lineups. And I said, I looked at my buddy who came over. He doesn't know much about hockey. I said, I guarantee you there's a Bruins goal off of a sloppy fucking line change in this game. And of course, goal number 2 was off of a very sloppy fucking line change. Another reason is I've got kind of a death pact with my brother. If the Leafs do win the cup, we drop everything and we fly, get to Toronto, fucking hitchhike, whatever you got to do for the parade. And I'm just too broke for that this year. I wouldn't make it.
That's fair.
So I just, I'd love to see it though.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think a lot of people would.
You'd catch me running down Water Street in St. John's, just running as fast as I can, which isn't that fast, and screaming without taking a breath until I fucking faint. That's what you'd see.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, on that, let's. Do we have anything else that we want to get into?
I don't think so.
Did we get a phone number yet?
No, so we're going to change the guest literally right now. I got a couple of options.
All right.
This is fun.
Yeah, I know.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a second. We are going to hear from the fine folks at Head Check Health, and when we come back, we're going to be talking to somebody.
Mystery guest.
Let's see how that all works out for us.
Concussions are serious business. Concussions and post-concussion syndrome had a huge effect on my career. Whether you're a player, a concerned parent, a coach, a risk manager, or an executive, they're a major area of concern. HeadCheck Health has developed software and services that improve the way concussions are assessed, tracked, and managed at all levels of sport. Their goal is to create a safer environment of play by giving better tools to the individuals responsible for documenting and assessing concussions and providing better data to administrators to make real health and safety improvements. HeadCheck currently works with organizations across the country like the Canadian Junior Hockey League, BC Hockey, Rugby Ontario, the Western Lacrosse Association, and more to advance their concussion management practices. If you're interested in learning more how HeadCheck can help your team or organization, please visit headcheckhealth.com or email info@headcheckhealth.com. That's headcheckhealth.com or info@headcheckhealth.com and tell them TR sent you. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's my pleasure to introduce good friend and former Quesnel millionaire, Tri-City American, Prince George Cougar, Kelowna Rocket, Albany River Rat, New Jersey Devil, Montreal Canadian, Edmonton Oiler, Hershey Bear, Dallas Star, and Anaheim Duck, Sheldon Souray. Sheldon, it's a pleasure to have you, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Tara.
Well, no problem. As you sit in where, Malibu, California? Is that where you were?
I'm sitting in California in Beverly Hills.
In Beverly Hills. I'm coming at you from, where are we? Anderson Street? The St. John's? Alexander Street in St. John's. Not quite as warm or tropical as where you are, but that's great.
Similar neighborhoods, though.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise it's almost identical.
Sheldon's actually been here a couple times. When you were here, Sheldon, we'll get into it, but do you remember coming in with Albany and Peter Sikora giving my dad a stick?
Yes, at your house.
Yeah, you do remember. He was into the Sheldon, and not, you know what? Here's where I'll start, guys, because we've had some guests on, and Sheldon, I think, would be my oldest friend in hockey, at least from leaving the island outside of minor hockey, and I'll tell you why. A lot of people that listen to this podcast at this point, if you don't know, I went in the first round. No, but if you don't know, I left when I was 14. I left to go to BC to play junior, and I wasn't really sure I was going to play junior. I just wanted to play in the Western League, or else I should say my dad wanted me to play in the Western fucking League. So I went out, and I get there, and I get told I'm playing junior. So, and I kind of like the only thing I remember thinking was cool was I got to wear a half visor. But everything else, there's the Rocky Mountain Junior Hockey League, guys. And I've kind of alluded to it, Sheldon. I heard you on Spittin' Chicklets last summer, and I nearly went off the road because I was driving down the street with an old team pitcher. I struck up a friendship again with Dave Laurie and Dave Standing and Spence. I talked to those guys. So anyway, boys, when I got out there, and the first game is the one we talk about where I got in a fight, fucking put hot sauce on my hands and rubbed it in. Remember Williams Lake had a couple of tough guys. But anyway, it was... You know, and then after the game, the boys all got on the beer, and they're smoking dope in the room, and Dad's like, holy fuck, like, you know, Tri-Cities are going to take you, but you got 2 years of this. So his idea at the time, he said, are there any guys that are Terry's age that are either drafted to Tri-Cities or at least listed, I guess? And I don't know, Ron Coleman was there. I can't remember, Sheldon, on your side, how it happened, but I remember your dad showing up the first day. I got my wish. And I was expecting, because I was big for my age, I was expecting someone smaller. And Sheldon comes in and just like this tank and just with no worries. It didn't matter. It didn't seem to scare you at all. Your first game, you got in a fight and just were right in there with the boys. So it really helped me. But Sheldon, talk about our Quesnel experience a little bit. I wouldn't know where to start.
Oh, man. Well, how did I end up there? So I was playing, I was 1 year older than you.
Yeah.
Right. I was 15 and I was playing midget in Edmonton, and I was playing for my buddy's dad on a AAA midget team.
Was that Mike Patno?
Yeah, it was my buddy Mike Patno.
I remember.
And so we're playing in Lethbridge, and this guy kept skating over a red line and warm up, so I ended up getting a fight with him. And then in the hallway before the game started, I went in their well, I didn't go in their dressing room, but I waited outside their door for this guy to come out. Got in another fight in my street clothes, so I got suspended from there. And there was, you remember Scott Bonner was the scout for Tri-City?
Totally. I didn't realize why so many guys came from Edmonton. I went to Tri-City, and literally 90% of the team was from Edmonton.
Sherwood
Yeah,
Park, right?
Lancow. Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a. I mean, he was in Edmonton too. He was my coach in Pee Wees.
Wow.
So I guess
I didn't know that.
And they said, "Well, you're going to go play. We got a place. We got a spot for you to go play junior." And I was thinking, "Oh, great! They're going to put me, somewhere fancy." And now I'm getting the respect I deserve. And they said it's up in Quesnel. I had no idea where it was. They said BC. I thought Sunshine, Okanagan.
Yeah.
It was going to be in the LA of Canada. And they said there's another guy up there who's this young kid, and he's 14, and they're doing a TSN special on him and all this stuff. So they sold it to me like you were the hot shot. So I loved it. I was going to be a kid around my age, and I had no idea what to expect. I was so naive, and I went up there and met you, and we were. Not only were we so much younger than these guys, we looked so much younger than these guys. I mean, these guys had big beards, long hair.
They worked in the mill, right?
Right. They worked in the pulp and paper mills. It was just like
there's a toughness to that. The whole town, there was a toughness to it. Everybody wore steel toe boots and storm riders were what was cool. If you went to the bar. Hooligans was the name of the bar, and if you went in, you were guaranteed to hear a John Denver song, and all the chicks would be chewing tobacco. Like, boys, it was one of those.
Yep.
It was about
they were tougher than we were for sure. And so I think it was the first game, and you might have gotten a fight, and I said, well, if this is how it's going, then this is what we're going to do, and that was the start of it. I mean, it just went from there. You and I just became, your mom and dad had moved. My dad was close with me during those days, right? And was like, trying to guide me down the right path. And then your dad was our coach, and your mom was, cooking us. She was my mom away from home. So we started out together at 14 and 15. I would say for sure you're my oldest friend in hockey, for sure.
Well, Sheldon, this is the thing. I find that town, there's a lot of good people now, guys. And some people, like, there was a guy, Chris Spencer, we played with. Pretty good. And Sheldon, you left the next year. And you went to Fort Saskatchewan. I played in Quesnel another year, and Spence ended up making the All-Star team. And there was people that were rough around the edges that I think if maybe you got if a good coach at 13 or 14 got a hold of them. Dave Standing was another one, but he kind of pissed it away himself. But drugs and stuff. But he'll tell you that. There was a sense of community there. It was a physical part. At the hockey arena, they packed it, but they were all chanting "fight." I don't know if they were chanting "championship" at any point. There was that level. But what I loved is when you came in, it gave Richard, your father, God rest his soul, great fucking fella, had me over for Christmas dinner when I was up in Edmonton a few years ago. Richard realized that, and my dad, we were there for a reason. And I don't know if there was other people in the league that were looking to get drafted, or Lenny Forshner was 19, but he ended up going up with Kamloops and winning a Memorial Cup. There was other people with the hopes to get up, but you and I were in a package. We were going to Tri-City. Guys, learn, get experience, but don't get hurt or don't fuck up. And it was hard not to fuck up, guys, because there was booze, dope, and there was women.
Yeah.
And you're young, and you're riding that train, and your first experience of playing in front of fans, really. I mean, minor hockey, what's that? So Sheldon and I had to really learn fast. Now, as the year went, we had to kind of get the first fight was a bit of a novelty.
Yeah.
Can I jump in here?
Yeah, of course.
Who the fuck taught you to put hot sauce on your hand?
That was a survival thing. Sheldon and I, you got to realize we had to fit in first and foremost. That was the hardest part for me. Wasn't the hockey. It was a junior A league, but it wasn't as good as the BCJ, and I ended up leading the team in scoring. Sheldon had good stats. I looked at the other day on Elite Prospects. We both had 200 penalty minutes, man. Imagine being 14 and 15, Sheldon, now, as some prospects. I mean, it was only 2 years later you were drafted in the NHL. So, and 3 for me. So here you are as a major prospect. You're part and parcel there, ready to go, and we're fighting so much. I took on every pot skin. There was 6 of them, and we really had to cut. Had to cut it in that place. And I've often said it. It might have seemed bizarre at the time, but Richard and T Senior knew what they were doing. And by the time I remember getting so scared of Grant Job up in Fort St. John. I just I was the type that I just didn't if I was scared, I just go out and fight him right off the bat, get it off my shoulders, just because I couldn't play with this guy. I mean, he was just fucking yelling at the bench. He was everything. He was a grizzled vet. He was everything you'd think of at the time. Lenny Forstner. These were like cartoon characters. And but anyway, I remember playing in Seattle. Yeah, Rick Kousis. Jeez, I forgot that. Chris Hawes. So, yeah, I mean, imagine. So, I remember thinking by the time I got to the Western League, like, one of my first games was in that small little barn in Seattle. Seattle got 2 rinks they play in. The one the Supersonics were in, the big one. And they had this little tiny shit box. It was fucking, the corners were like 90 degrees. And
St. Bonds.
Yeah, and I remember like getting hit by Brendan Witt and like BJ Young, God rest his soul, my roommate at the time. BJ was 16 as well, and he was so scared of those guys. And I remember going, fuck, at least this is on video. Like, someone will see you getting hit. Like, I was scared that Grant Job was going to kick the shit out of me out by the fucking bus out back. Well, this is true. And there were people in the league that I really think, like, rumors that they were 25 years old and shit. We're like, oh, man. But
that's what working in the mill does to you, man. It ages you.
But this is what happens. Sheldon, for all, I don't even know, Sheldon, the way it turned out for you, I don't know if I, at the time, either one of us realized that you would end up becoming an NHL scoring defenseman. Because, guys, they loved Sheldon, much like New Jersey did a few years later, to be that kind of Danico type would be. But, you know, Sheldon was in up there, and, like, I was fighting because I was nuts, and I'd do it. Sheldon was fighting and beating tough guys. There's a difference, right? He was 15 years old doing that. So we went into, and the first year, Sheldon, you're 16. You don't even fucking stick and try, do you? You went to Fort Saskatchewan.
No, I had, right before that training camp at 16, I was playing summer hockey and taking a slap shot to the face.
No, is that what happened?
I came in, I broke my nose and my orbital bone and had, surgery on my nose, and that worked out. I only got broken about 50 times after that. But I remember going into training camp, and we had Bob McCammon, right, who was coach of the Oilers, and he thought it was a good idea for me to stick around there for the beginning. And I was 16. We'd played away from when I was 15 in Quesnel, which was a long, hard year. It was a great year, and like you said,
but it was mentally rough for a couple of fucking young guys. Sheldon, we can look back at it. And,
fighting and dude, I remember. I mean, another story, I guess, for another time. But I mean, the partying, like, you grew up fast there. These guys. I mean, I was the same as you. I didn't know what to expect, but when I went to Tri-Cities at 16. I was so homesick by the time it was middle of November, end of November, that I went in and asked Bob if I could just go home and play, Tier 2 junior, because sitting around and coming off an injury, being a young guy, no confidence, homesick. It was almost, I would say, when I was 16, my first year going to Tri-Cities and going back to Fort Saskatchewan, was almost like a make or break year for me, where I almost wanted to quit hockey. We're just like, oh man,
Sheldon, you know what? I don't know if you remember this, but I remember that going on in your head, and you won't remember it, but your playoffs in Fort Saskatchewan, someone, I think it was McCammon, they flew me over to watch it because they said, you're Sheldon's buddy, right? Like, make sure he's in the right mindset and everything. I don't know what was going on with you in Tri-City. I have no idea. It could have been just homesickness, but they flew me over. I watched that. I watched whoever you played. I remember watching the game. You wore red uniforms, and it was the game that you got knocked out. I don't know, but because the reason I bring this up, I mean, people listen to the show now know how it ended, right? I mean that in a good way. I don't mean the injuries. I mean, like, you ended up scoring, being an NHL All-Star, but they don't understand the beginnings of it. And I often say to people, I'm like, Sheldon's like Sean Thornton, but they had to work at what I don't mean toughness. I mean, they had to work at what they did. And when Sean played with us and the St. John's Maple Leafs, he'd sit out lots of games. Sheldon was the same thing. And when Sheldon started to play, I heard you on Spit and Chicklets talk about this, man. So we go into our draft year. Sheldon, all of a sudden, he always had that shot. You didn't really know it yet because Sheldon had like 1 goal and 2 goals and 3, even in the A. Like, look at those. But he wasn't really on the power play for a lot of that time. In Tri-City, he had a cannon, 100 miles an hour going by your head. He didn't know where it was fucking going, though. And he had to work on his lateral movement, totally. But Sheldon, it's true. But Sheldon did that. I mean, it is. I mean, I'm not putting you down when I say this, because it means that at some point you had to work hard. And we had to learn that too, Sheldon. When Quesnel, they'd say work out. I'd go and like do the bench press, and on the way home, I remember you more than once getting 3 Big Mac combos. Do you remember that shit? You used to eat like a train.
I used to pretend to put money in the pot, because I had no money. We had no money. Yeah. I mean, I used to put money in the pot. I'd write my order down and pretend to put money in and take $1 out. We're always short. Yeah. And I was ordering so much food and never putting money in. But hey, that was what they had to pay to play with me. That's what I said. That's what they had to pay to buy me Big Mac combo.
First contract is nothing but Big Mac combo.
Hey man, but
like McDonald's.
But that's the other thing, Sheldon. We were both from middle class. Like my mom didn't work. Dad was a teacher, and he gave up everything to come out there with me. So he didn't have a job. He subbed out there. So and Richard was, our parents and Lillian the same thing. She knew what was going on. She wasn't over as much, but I mean, I still talk with her all the time. She was heavily invested in your career, and they knew what. They were there to support us, whatever it took. But Sheldon and I weren't silver spooners, so we never had a lot of money. So the boys, that's why in Quesnel, if we could have gone to a team, I went to Vernon for a little bit, and I left because they were jealous. They were that's the wrong word to use. They were resentful because I knew where I was going. They're like, you're fucking 3rd overall in the Western League draft, and you're going to fucking come in here and play ahead of me, and I'm looking for a scholarship. It doesn't even matter what you do this year. You can get 2 points or 100, right? You're already going to Tri-City. So there was a bit of that.
Sounds like a fun
but in Quesnel wasn't like that. Quesnel, they got behind Sheldon and I remember in their own way. Like Chris Spencer used to say, T can only have 6 beers, or Standing would say, noof. No, you know what? Give him 1 puff of that joint. Like, in other words, meanwhile, it's a prospect smoking weed, but still... they looked out for us in their own way. Yeah. And it really, so now I'll get back to the story. So Sheldon comes in and was in his 17-year-old year. So this is his draft year. Now I'm 16. I had a decent year for a 16-year-old, 30 points at the end of the year, a couple hundred pims. We were in last place. So it's a good place for Sheldon to grow and everything, but he gets hurt halfway through. Now, most people were aware that he was tough and a good defenseman. Yeah. And not yet had cut that scoring train. But he fought Brant Myers. Now, this is the thing, Sheldon. I heard you talk about it on Chicklets, and you're right. I don't know if ever there was billed a tougher guy that I'd never played against. I heard about Brant Myers like I heard about Tony Twist coming into the NHL. Like, I don't know at the time. I knew, and plus I knew all the Edmonton guys who knew him. So I was prepared for this animal, and he didn't let me down. Brant Myers was the toughest then. It was, and you listen to. Anybody listening, listen to his interview on Chicklets, and it'll have you laughing, crying, and then some. It was amazing. But Sheldon fights him. Halfway through the fight, Sheldon's doing all right, right? You're humble. You didn't admit that, but Sheldon, you were doing all right. And I think that blasted you up into the 3rd round. You broke your leg, didn't you, in the fight?
I did, yeah. Wow. I want to stick.
Yeah, and I remember just having fought him just enough, and people knew, especially Jersey, who ended up taking Sheldon in the 3rd round. And imagine at that time, guys, it was a lot of people went like, how did Sheldon go in the 3rd round? But now explain that, Sheldon, the transition, because the next year now you come back and you are on our power play. Now you're showing that it took a few years in pro, but now in junior you did score a little bit, and we got rid of you to fucking Prince George and then Kelowna. But tell me a little bit about the year coming back after you were drafted, what it meant, and what Jersey they worked with you, I remember. And tell us about it.
They did. So I was actually, again, because you knew when you had come into Quesnel the year I was there, you were a top prospect. They did a TSN thing on you. I mean, we were all trying to hang out with you so we could get on TSN for about 30 seconds. You took him for a walk in the hills and shit all by yourself.
Yeah, and you got suspended for the game. You didn't play the game anyway because you were suspended.
I was suspended for the game. Yeah. I'm like, my dad's like, good luck tonight. I go, well, I'm not playing tonight. He's like,
you threw your helmet at Reno Bettazzoni.
That's right. This is crazy shit we did up there. But when I got to Tri-City, so I go home for that year, when I was 16, and then I play I got to live with my mom and play juniors in Fort Saskatchewan. And so I got to, stay close to home, and I would just commute to practices. So that year was actually pretty good for me to be at home, get over the homesickness. My parents still encouraged me, like, hey, man, you could go be a truck driver, or you can just follow this hockey thing. So the next year when I came back to Tri-Cities when I was 17, I knew it was going to be like proving myself again, right? Where you're going to fight, you weren't going to play a lot, and you're going to have to work all the stuff that we did.
Yeah.
And, like the story I told when I fought Brant, who's one of my best friends, and, I grew up with him, and thank God I fell down in that fight, or he would have killed me, because he was hands down.
Oh, man, was he scary.
The toughest human being that was playing juniors for sure. And he's got a ton of funny stories. And so when I broke my leg that year, and when I was hurt, I was doing all these interviews with teams, right? And they were telling me I was on their radar. And so when I got drafted by Jersey, I had a lot of talks with them and meetings, and they showed some interest and some confidence in me that I could be a good player, and that this is what they see. They didn't tell me I was going to play the power play or anything like that, but that didn't matter. It was that someone other than my dad or, one of my buddies was like, you get a chance to play in the NHL. So when I went back the year after I was drafted, it was just kind of a renewed confidence, right? And I just felt, I really, it's crazy. I just thought that I was a better player than I was. And that's really it. I got a chance. It's the same with NHL. I got an opportunity because other guys either didn't play well, got hurt. In my case in New Jersey, I got called up to New Jersey because Ken Danico went to treatment, went to rehab. Wow. And it's all these little breaks you got. But when I got the break in Tri-Cities and I came back, we weren't a great team. We weren't bad, but we weren't great.
It was good for young kids to play.
It was good for young kids to play. And I had earned a little respect from what I did the year before, which was not much other than really just fight Brant Myers.
Yeah. It really was, because you only ended up getting in 37 games or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't play many games. I was kind of hurt that year too, But, same with you. We were fighting everybody. It was just kind of one of those things. It was the year I came back when I was 18. It was like, oh, wow, I got a little bit more room. I started playing a little bit more. Just got confidence from there. And that's just kind of how it went, And once you get a little taste of it, right, and I was getting some compliments from New Jersey. Keep it up, and we're going to get you up to the, farm team at the end of the year. All these little things just kept me motivated, kept me with my eyes on the prize. And you never know how it's going to turn out, but I know that if you or I hadn't done that, and hadn't worked our butt off for that opportunity, then, we'd be sitting here probably regretting a lot, sitting in a bar somewhere saying what could have been. And I didn't want that.
One thing I was going to say, Sheldon, at some point, I remember, I don't know when it happened, but yeah, you're right. I remember in your draft year, even you talking about hockey, like you didn't even know if you were going to play it. But not that you didn't go out there and work hard, but there was some, you said when you went to Fort Saskatchewan. But at some point when Jersey, you started to work out and there wasn't 3 Big Macs anymore. It's like now, there was an evolution to what you are now. If you follow Sheldon on Instagram, it's a lot, he's in great shape. He takes pride in his body. He's quit boozing recently. There's a lot of fucking things going on and it's positive, and it takes an evolution. And when we started in Quesnel, it was dope, beer, and fucking, well, not dope first, they were there, but it was mostly eating Big Macs, whatever. Spaghetti, is that good? Give me a steak with it. You really didn't fucking know.
Yeah.
But at some point, Sheldon, it clicked. And I don't know if that was when Jersey drafted you or when they signed you or what it was, but, it clicked. And all of a sudden, you were a prospect. And it was funny because from my eyes, you're right. When you came to Quesnel, I don't think you ever expected to play you didn't really know. I can't say you didn't expect to play in the NHL, but it was further off. I knew I was going to play in the NHL. I hate to say that. I'm not, and look the way things worked out. But in my mind, I was being brought out as a National Hockey League player on his way. And
right.
Now, by my second-year junior, Sheldon's third, Sheldon's in line with the New Jersey Devils. He's in better shape. And didn't you fucking, wait. My memory here. Didn't you win a Calder Cup? You got called up to the A? Didn't that happen?
Yeah, went up to...
Tell us about that.
That's it. When I went to training camp, I got drafted and I went to training camp, and it was the lockout shortened season in '94. And I went to training camp, and I had stuck right until the lockout, basically till opening day, and then they had the lockout. I signed a contract when I was 18. They gave me a bunch of money. And then that's when I went back to Tri-City. So I come back to Tri-Cities as a guy who played 40 games the year before, major, junior, to signing an NHL contract and staying
and
with
your
the team
Corvette Blue
until,
Stingray.
Right, exactly.
Your
so
Uncle
now I'm thinking,
Stingray.
like,
Yeah.
holy, my dad bought it for me. He
Did
said,
he?
Hey, I want you to have like a taste of what it's like to be
Oh, that was
NHL
great. I love
used
that.
thing. Remember, we drove that thing around like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
Oh, you used to give me the keys all the time. All the time. I remember that, the inside of that car like it was...
Take care of your car. Oh, yeah. My dad used to, you taking care of that car? Oh, yeah. We'd open the door, beer cans.
I know.
It was crazy. But so I go to training camp with Jersey, and I stay. I have a good camp. There's some good things happen there. And then I go back to juniors that year, and I have a good year in juniors. And I got called up to Albany at the end of that season and played with Albany in the playoffs. And our team in Albany had, Steve Sullivan and all Cale Hulse and Jason, so all these guys who we had on our team all played in the NHL. And then we got to go up to Jersey at the end of that year, and the Devils won the Cup. So that was all my first year being drafted.
That's
I'm like,
insane.
Life doesn't get any better than this.
What
right?
happened to you in 48 months? Right, 48 months, Sheldon. Think about it. You were in Fort Saskatchewan. 48 months later, you got a Calder Cup and you're in the NHL.
Calder Cup, and I'm in Jersey, celebrating the Devils win. And so that summer, that goes to June 15th. So I partied like, I had just won the Conn Smythe Trophy in the playoffs in Jersey and hadn't played a game. And so I go into camp now as a 19-year-old after having a great camp. And this was my career. This is what turned, I think, my career from being. This gave me the perspective, I guess, is what happened. And so I go into training camp. I wasn't in shape, and I think I might have had 2 or 3 practices, inter squad scrimmages with the team. They made me do some work after, and before even the first exhibition game happened, Lou Lamoriello called me up to the office and said, "We're sending you down to Albany." They hadn't even made any cuts yet. I was like the only guy, and I'm like, okay, I don't get in that game or anything. He's like, "You will never ever put on a jersey. You won't even be a part of this organization if you ever show up and embarrass yourself and this organization again by showing up as unprofessional and out of shape as you did."
Wow,
so
that's
I go
Lou
down to
Lamoriello
Albany.
saying that.
Yeah, and this is Lou, and and here I was thinking I'm going in there and God, I'm going to make the team, right? I'm going to be the next friggin' captain of the Devils, and so I go down. They sent me down to Albany and put me in a hotel. They hadn't even made cuts yet, so I didn't skate for about 10 days because I was down in Albany. And so my dad, I got to tell my dad now, right?
Yeah, Lou Lamoriello was like a Sopranos mob boss in my mind.
No,
this confirms it.
Wow.
This guy is I don't respect. There's nobody who did more for my career. There's nobody that I respect more than Lou Lamoriello. And I've had some conversations with him where he looked at me and I was crying. He just had to look at me and I'd start crying because I knew that I was letting myself down, I was letting him down. So my dad would call me and say, "Hey, how's it going?" I go, "I got sent down." He goes, "What?" I go, "Yeah." And then I told him, and it was like the disappointment, right?
Yeah.
So at that moment, I knew that, that was not going to happen again.
So that's the moment.
Now I had, and I had to and they sent me back to juniors. I didn't even play an exhibition game with Albany that year. It was like really, really humbling. So I got to go back to juniors as a 19-year-old, and I'm like, this is. If I want to do it, I've already seen what it's like there. I've already seen Ken Danico train. I've already seen how Scott Stevens comes to the rink. I've already seen what it's like to play with Marty Brodeur. And I went back to juniors, and I'm like, if I want to do this, I got to make some changes to how I look at this thing. How I look at being a professional. And that was it. That was kind of it.
I do remember you doing that. It was like
me.
Overnight. Like you didn't have to be convinced, and then once you started on that track, well, and you know what? Which brings me to my next thing. So I had Panolan on last week, and Podes, me and Podes were talking about Brainerd. So Sheldon, in the middle of all this, this was before, because Brainerd, Minnesota, we would go for those that didn't hear last week, so we were with my agent was Mike Barnett. I think Sheldon's was Tom Laidlaw. Mel Bridgman was the third. They worked for IMG, which is still on the go, I think. I don't know. But Mike Barnett would give me money to go to wherever really I wanted to go train, as long as it was legit. So San Jose had this camp in Brainerd, Minnesota, and a lot of other pros went there. I think you could pay Dean Grillo or whatever. You know, I remember my roommate was Richard Park, Dubber, Ewan Dubber, Podolin, Mike Dubinsky, Mark Savard. So we all went to this thing. Now, do you remember much about that, Sheldon?
Sort of.
I tell you, there's something really funny that happened. So there was first of all, there was a little pool. It was like a summer camp movie. It was really what it was like. It was. I mean, I'm not telling you. You remember the fucking cabins and all that shit. You remember the lake. Yeah. But we went, and I think you went home early for some reason. I don't know if you hurt yourself. This was before everything you just said. This was in the middle of junior. You were drafted, and I just got drafted. I guess the summer of '95, maybe, or '96. So, we go there, but we were outside. So there was this. What do you call it? Like a dock, like a dock kind of thing.
Oh, it was like a swim platform in the lake.
It was a swim platform on the lake, about maybe 300 feet off. So you had to swim quite a bit to get there, maybe 200. So you'd go out there, and then while everybody was standing on this thing,
it was like a floating wharf, out in the middle of the lake.
Yeah, it would go down a few inches, so it looked like you were walking on water.
A wet dock. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we were out there. I don't know if you remember this, man, but we were out there.
I do now. Yeah,
okay. And so I was always. I don't know why, but when I was getting scouted or people were looking at me, I'd try to start a fight first. I would think. Now I'm going back a little bit here. So we went to that camp, and there was this guy Radek Bonk. You know Radek Bonk.
Yeah.
He was rated first the year before, whatever it was. He ended up going 4th or 5th. Radek Bonk was in the IHL though, right? We all had to play junior, and those times, like Peter Sikora, Radek Bonk, a few more, Peter Nedved, I think, before they were drafted, come over, and they played in the IHL. So this morning, we were out there practicing, and we're doing one-on-one bull in the ring type drills. And I tried to fight Radek Bonk. Stupid thing to do, and he was a nice guy too. I don't know why. There was like a Hab scout there or something. So anyway, later in the day, and I tried to make up with him. I really felt bad. Like, he looked at me like I had 10 heads, right? So we went out on this platform. We swam out to it. So we're all standing up, and I'm talking with Sheldon. I'm like, maybe we should try to make Radek feel like at home or whatever. Like, he's not talking to anybody. So Sheldon, like, pushes him. Like, hey, new guy, what's up? And pushes him, and he goes backwards, but we didn't realize this dock that we were on was like way bigger than we thought. So he slipped, and he went down on his tailbone and fucking hurt himself. He came up, he knocked the wind out of himself. So he's out there going, and he had to miss the rest of the thing.
Oh God!
But Sheldon, do you remember that?
He just been drafted 3rd overall by Ottawa, and so I thought we thought, right, joking, we were always big in the fun. We thought that doing this would endear us to him somehow and put him out for the camp. I'm like, this couldn't have gone worse. Well, the reason I went home from that camp is they sent me home.
Oh, is that?
Like, hey,
wow!
What happened? They're like, what happened on the dock? I go, hey, we were fooling around, and I was playful. And they're like, well, he can't participate anymore. And I said, well, that's too bad, I guess. And he said, well, now you're not going to participate anymore. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm going home. I had my fun year, got some sun, got a little ice time, got to swim in. Yeah. And I went back. I'm like, the camp was too hard anyways. I'm like, whatever.
Did Radek ever hold it against you?
Like, you guys played together in Montreal after, right?
Oh, yeah. They were pissed.
It was June, first of all, so it was hard to get yourself in the mindset. This wasn't August, right before camp. Yeah. This was June, so it was hard to get yourself in the mindset. But I remember Sheldon was like, it was like, oh, you kind of thing, like pushed him. And he didn't expect it, so he went like slip. And right off the bat, his eyes got as big as beach balls. He tried to catch himself. There was nothing to catch. And he went down on that thigh, man, and boom. And he had to leave.
So that was the summer. That was the summer that I didn't do a fucking thing all summer. I mean, like I get to camp and the guy's like, hey, you're out of shape. Like, have you been working out? I said, yeah. Went for a couple jogs.
Funny story. I broke Radek Bonk's ass.
And here I am going into training camp thinking I'm going to make team. I'm like, yeah, I went for a couple jogs, did some push-ups, sit-ups, got a chin-up bar. I think I can do about 6 or 7 of those. And so that was the last summer. I swear to God, that was the last summer. So I go in, and then I get in trouble from Lou. And then he said, well, we're going to start this thing. We're going to invite some guys and some young guys in for the summer, and you're going to be here, and you're going to train your ass off all summer. And we were the first organization to do that. So we had like a few guys who come in, Peter Sikora, Patrick Eliash, Ken Danico was training around there, so he was the older guy.
Was Dean McCammon there then? Dean McCammon, was he there?
No, he wasn't. He wasn't there yet. But the funny thing is, so the next summer, after this debacle of the year before not being in shape, the next summer it's about June, and I'd gone up to Albany at the end of the season again after our junior season, and I get an email. It's mid-June, and I get an email from the lady, Lou's assistant, Marie. She's still with the Devils, unreal lady. She says, "Hey, we'd like to invite you to Florida mid-July for 10 days. Bring your golf clubs and bring some running shoes, and it's all on the Devils, and we're going to have like this little fun trip for a few guys." So great. So Florida, great. I heard good things about Florida. So I go down there, pack my bag. I go down there, running shoes, jeans, button-up shirts. I didn't have any golf clubs, so that wasn't a thing. So I go down there, and our owner had a place on this place in Florida called Lake Nona, which is a really well-known golf place.
Yeah.
They have one of the best golf facilities, but they also had this thing, which is a mental toughness course. So we went down there, and it was our version of Hell Week. I thought we were going on a golf trip.
Oh, my God.
We get there the first day. They took, as soon as Peter Sikora and Patrick Elias showed up, they came in from Czechoslovakia. And as soon as they showed up, they had long hair. They showed up. They put their bags in the room. They got in the car that Lou had set up and drove them right to the hairdressers and made them get haircuts.
No fucking way.
I actually read about this.
On my
I'd heard that.
So we're like, wow, this is crazy. And then there was like 8 or 9 of us who were down there, and so okay, the first meal, you guys be in the in this lounge in this restaurant at whatever 6 o'clock. So we go in there, and we're sitting at this table, and they bring out these little plates with like one little piece of vegetables on it, right? Like, well, not a piece, but a small little pot. And I'm thinking, wow, this place is fancy. This is this is the first little taste of something. And so we ate it. And Lou comes out and he says, "All right, guys, welcome to 10 days. This is the mental toughness course." And he goes over this thing. Well,
Jesus.
What the hell just happened? So we had to eat like that for 10 days. We had to take these mental toughness. We had to go run in the hot Florida sun at like 6 a.m. Our warm-up was like a 5-mile jog. And then we were in this football field throwing medicine balls. And then we had to go again at 3 o'clock and do it. It was literally Hell Week for 10 days.
I don't know.
And, Yeah.
There was someone on that team that showed up thinking like yourself. It was a golf trip. They didn't bring any socks, and they were running in. I can't remember whose book I read this in. They were running in dress socks like the whole 10 days.
I honestly thought that was a yarn. I didn't think that actually happened. I heard from Sheldon's, but Sheldon, you never told me that. I heard it could have been your dad.
No,
it could have been your dad.
It was so hot out. I remember it was like 6 a.m. in the morning. Middle of July, South Florida. And we're running these, so we had to go do this jog. The guy had to come back to the back of the line and grab me to help me, just finish a jog, which was our warm up. And we go to this football field, and we got to start throwing these medicine balls and chasing them, right? And I remember it's literally 6 o'clock in the morning, and I see Lou's out there on the sideline. He has his shirt off. It's so hot out that our GM has his shirt off on the sideline. 60 years old, and we looked, and it was kind of funny, but we kind of knew he meant business too, So, needless to say, that year, I had done that, and then from there, I was able to go home, get some clothes, and I went to New Jersey, trained the rest of the summer, and that was it. And that's what I did. And when I played in New Jersey, for my first 2 years, I lived in a hotel because Lou said, "We'll pay for the hotel, but you're going to live in a hotel." So they knew everything I was doing, what time I was getting in, what time I wasn't getting in. what I was ordering from room service, what I wasn't. So for my first 2 years in the NHL, I lived in a hotel, and I trained there in the summer. So the organization had me under lock and key. And it's not, I'm not saying it like, wow, this is.
I know. You needed that.
Lou took me under, I mean it like, if Lou hadn't done that for me, I would have never had the discipline or the knowledge to do that for myself.
Well,
so
Sheldon,
he really was the guy who started my career.
That's the thing, because I know you. So at some point, and after junior, we did keep in touch. Like Sheldon, do you remember coming to my first NHL game? You and Eric Bertrand. You both you drove up and you spent the night. We really supported each other, but that's the thing. I missed when all this transformation you're talking about, because I knew Sheldon. I'm not saying that don't give a fuck. We were all like it in Tri-Cities, me, you, and Lankow. Did we ever, just to name 3 prospects, I don't remember ever going to the weight room even, like maybe when they made us, right? It was just, it was easier out in junior, and you didn't even really know. The knowledge wasn't there to ignore. So I hate to say we were ignorant, because we just didn't know, and there wasn't trainers working with junior teams or anything then. So I knew that something must have happened. Now my second question with that, I've always wondered. Jersey had a lot of D that were similar. I don't know if they were going for that look. Like, just think, Stevens, Danico, you, Colin White came right after you, didn't he?
Niedermayer's in there.
Yeah, but Niedermayer was a scorer though. Yep. I'm wondering if. Because White, Souray, Danico, and Stevens all have O-line. Yeah. So did they expect you? I assumed, this is what I always assumed, you get traded to Montreal, you still don't know that NHL scoring's in you, and the one piece comes, and your shot goes from 95 to 105. Did that have, or did you just get more confidence, and were Jersey content to say, you know what, Sheldon is great, stay at home D? Or did it just happen? Like, how did that transformation happen? Because that's another transformation. I often tell people, I'm like, the Sheldon off and on the ice is not the person that I met. I mean, none of us are, but you were a heavy 180 in both. So when did the scoring come?
Well, what kind of happened was in New Jersey, the last year that I was there, I started falling out of favor. Jacques Lemaire retired, and we brought in a coach, Robbie Fatorik, who'd coached in Albany and had his guys. And I wasn't one of his guys. I wasn't the guy that was going to bed at 10 o'clock at night and watching film. That wasn't my thing. I was going to New York City. And to be honest with you,
you were being on film. You were on The Young and the Restless. You were.
Dude, I was doing everything. I couldn't believe that here I am. I'm playing in the NHL. You have these off-ice opportunities, going to clubs with celebrities. It's New York. Everyone's treating you great. So I also love that. Noof. I mean, you know me. So I also love that part of it.
Yeah.
And New Jersey didn't love that part of it. They wanted to really keep you. It was, the organization was great. The players were very professional. And so we got a new coach, and I just fell out of favor with him. He started playing a different type of guy. And so I just started not caring a little bit. I started letting my professionalism slip a little bit. But to be honest, when you're bag skating after every game and practices and you're putting in the extra work and you're not going to get in the lineup, it was just like, it was a change of scenery was coming. So when I got traded to Montreal, I got a call and Lou said I was traded, and then Réjean Houle, who's the GM of Montreal at the time, got on the phone. It was like 9 o'clock at night. And he said, we play in Boston tomorrow night. I got traded in Colorado, and he said, we're going to get you out on a red eye tonight. You're going to get into Boston, skate with the team. If you get in on time, and then we play in Boston. And I said, great. He goes, I heard you don't sleep much anyway, so it shouldn't be a problem for you. And I said, great. I got on the plane. I'm like, he knows my routine. He'll trade him for me. This is going to be great. And what happened was I got to Montreal. I played 19 games there. Great guys, good veteran team. Eric Weinrich, Scott LaChance, Zach Turner Stevenson. It was just a great group of guys. And so I went into that next year going, this is really going to be great. I'm playing for the Canadians. They traded for me. This is a great opportunity for me. And then I got hurt there. I broke my wrist. And what happened was the doctor said, look, it had 2 or 3 surgeries to try to fix this bone. And they said, we don't know if you're going to play again. Actually, the chances are that you probably won't play again. And I said, I had just gotten married. I had just had a kid in September, my firstborn. And I'm like, Well, not playing and not making the money really isn't an option now. So however this is going to, look, whatever I have to do, I'm going to at least eke out another contract somehow, right? And so I'm sitting in Montreal, and I'm sitting in the press box, and I'm sitting beside a couple scouts, more than a couple. There was 3 or 4 guys, and we were playing, and we weren't very good that year. And they were saying, what the Canadians really need? They need a heavy shot on the power play. They need someone who can move guys in front of the net. They're talking. I'm sitting beside them, and I wasn't a part of their conversation, but they're talking exactly about what I thought I could bring, what I've shown that I could do in other. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, wow, this is maybe an opportunity. I'm thinking, why am I not? I'm that guy. I'm that guy. And I was already rehabbing from an injury. My mindset was already, well, I'm not taking no for an answer. And so the work that I was putting in just made me more focused. I was like, when I do get back in and get an opportunity to be part of this team again, I want to do these things because I think I can do that. And, I worked my bag off to get back, and luckily, with God's grace, my injury wasn't a career-ending injury. And again, opportunity just met me at the right time. And
opportunity is one thing.
Played their way out of position.
You got the most goals don't you have the most goals? I should redo my research. It's just in my head because you're a buddy. I think you have the most goals for defensemen.
Way to be prepared.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing. On ice, off ice.
Podcast is going great. Keep it up.
But you have the most goals for a defenseman in the Montreal Canadiens history. And that's, in one season, which is insane or close to. Am I right on that, Mike?
It's the year you got 26?
Yeah,
26. Yeah, I remember that.
And guys, so I know what you're saying. Grab a bit of confidence. But this is insane. First of all, when I would be in the Montreal dressing room, I'd always assume that nobody on the team is going to get any record because the team goes back 1,000 years, right?
Yeah.
So as I'm looking of all the people that I thought would do this, I would be, less surprised.
A little bit of shade getting
I don't
laid
know.
down
I'd be less
here.
surprised if Corey Cross did it. No. I'm saying to have that record.
Oh.
If you
Don't
told
forget,
me,
he said we're the oldest friends, guys.
Oh, no, jeez.
But Sheldon,
A little bit of shade getting thrown.
I'm telling you,
I'm going to go hang myself after this interview. Thanks a lot.
No, look, it's just to have that level. It's phenomenal, and having getting drafted there and Sheldon coming up to my first game, it really felt fitting, but I just didn't see it happening, and and that stuck, Sheldon, and with the total love, I say that you ended up being a scoring defenseman. You nearly had 30 goals. Of all of us in junior, Sheldon, you really came out of it with, and you're down there now, and I don't want to get too far into it because it's your business, but you're off the booze, and I don't know if, your dad passed away a while ago. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. That really affected me, though. He was one of the first people I met in hockey, and like I said, man, when I was out, finding myself, you're always kind of finding yourself. Sometimes that's fun. But when I was finding myself in 07, 08, I was out in Bentley playing for the Generals. Sheldon came playing in the NHL now for Edmonton. Sheldon came to the fucking senior games. Same thing out here. You do it for the Allen Cup, right? Yeah. So, but Richard, his dad, invited me over to his place for Christmas dinner because I didn't, and we were buddies, but I hadn't talked to Richard in 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of people they are. So, I know you're doing well, Sheldon, and we do need to talk more. I went to Tri-Cities about a month ago, and we talked about it just before you got on, and I need to do that more. I don't know if you ever go back or if we should go on a golf trip somewhere, or maybe even
like
back
an
in
actual
Edmonton.
golf trip, though. You're not just going to
you're not going to run them for 20 days in a row.
Don't invite the guy on a golf trip and then just completely fuck him up.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
what kind of trap is this? I'm not going to.
Sheldon, what's funny? We talk about Myers, and I don't know Brant that well, but the one night that I spent with him was in Fishing Lake with you. It was at the draft, and you took me up to Fishing Lake, and I don't remember what happened the night of the draft. I just remember the night, guys, because my draft was in Edmonton, and Sheldon was there anyway. His was the year before in Hartford.
Yeah.
So Sheldon came to the draft.
It used to be called Barry Tees.
Yes. Very tease.
That
You're
bar,
right.
yeah.
Okay, I didn't remember where we were. I remember like 5 a.m. you beating on my door. Noof, let me in, and I'm like, I'm getting drafted tomorrow, asshole. But we just got home now. I got home like I beat him by like a half hour. Yeah. But I don't remember what happened before that. I just remember that. And then the next night I got drafted, and Richard and Sheldon just said, fuck it. My parents were out there too. Said, come up, see where I'm from. Sheldon's from a little place called Fishing Lake in northern Alberta.
Yeah.
And we went up there, and Mizey, even though, he told his story, and I'm glad he's sober and everything now, because Mizey was not only tough, he was fucking tough, and he was a boozer, but people say that like it's all negative. I'm glad that he's off it because it was a problem. But I remember him grabbing a beer, giving it to me, and I didn't even ask him. People think he's this big, dominating presence that's an asshole, or I shouldn't say an asshole, but might be strike fear in people. He grabbed me the beer and he said, "Now here," and this is Brant Myers, who I thought was the toughest person I'd ever seen at that point. After I got drafted, he's buddies with Sheldon. Like I said, the next year these guys fucking fought each other. Yeah. And he crashed me a beer. He said, "Now this is how it's going to be when you get drafted." And he said, "Now if I was you," he said, "you can score better than I can, so I wouldn't be grabbing this guy, but this is what I did." Took me to his... Brant Myers sat there. I might have said 3 words if you can fucking believe that.
Jesus, how?
No, but my experience with him was he was an unreal fella.
That's a rarity, though.
And we're gonna
He is. He's an unreal guy. His story is incredible. He's one of my best friends in life. Not too many guys I look up to more than him. His story is incredible. You know, because we all kind of came up together, and the paths that have led us to where we are. But I remember that when you were, and thank you for saying the nice things about my dad. My dad was, look, man, we're playing in you went across the whole frigging country to play junior hockey. I only had to go, 10 or 12 hours, but our parents kind of seen the big picture. So, my dad was your dad was our coach, and my dad, your mom took care of me when I was there. So, I mean, there was a lot of love. I mean, between you and I, coming up in that, we had a lot of support. Other guys that were playing there, they were playing hockey, and it was a cool thing to do, and a way to blow off steam and maybe get some chicks, whatever everyone else's reasons were. We had the support of our parents, and that was, I think, the major difference, I would say, for me anyways, is that we had guidance along the way. It wasn't like a party thing. It wasn't a pit stop. It was a pit stop and not a destination. You know what I mean? And,
I do.
And I'm thankful. And thanks for saying the nice things about my dad.
Well, no problem. You need to know that he was, well, you do know it, but people need to know it. Because like I said, he was, the thing is, they knew and they supported it. And I'll always say it. It was hard to stick handle a kid's future at the time because we were in Quesnel, and guys, and all those things were there. Now, if my dad had pulled me off the team, things would have, we were there. We had to blend in, and they knew it, and it was best for our experience, but it had to be handled with a fine-tooth comb, and they did that, and they had a way to make it seem not fun, because it was fun, but they had a way to make it seem, this is fun, but you know what? You guys got a job to do, and you got each other to get there, and it really felt like, I got to say, I didn't feel alone once Sheldon came, and I should say this, we had a buddy on that team who'd fight the fucking devil, and he went, his name was Quentin Van Horlick, and Quentin, I know that his family listens, so I should go out and say it, and Quentin passed away 2 years ago. But Sheldon, he was, we went there, and Sheldon and I were in that position, but there was a kid, Quentin Van Horlick. He wasn't a prospect, so I don't want to leave him out, though, because his family listens, and he was one of us as well. He was there for that reason. He just wasn't quite good enough. He had a 10-year career, I think, or maybe even 12 in like the Central League or the Western Professional League. But anyway, I figured I'd say that. And before I let you go, because so tough. It is, Sheldon, and there's people you come across in the game that transcend hockey, and it's funny because Quentin embodied everything about a young player. Like, he just didn't have the skill, but he loved hockey. He had, boys, we were playing junior, he had Wayne Gretzky bed sheets. Like, this guy loved it. He came to Tri-City camp, and he fought everything. He might have been 5'10", 160. He fought everybody. I couldn't even believe that they were letting him do it anymore. I'm like, boy, someone tell Quentin he's not a
your mentality, he just wasn't as big. He just was
Yeah.
He was just really, he always bit off more than he could chew, but he was so much respect that, there's so many guys, right, that are like that, don't get the opportunity that you or I got. And whether you make something of it or you don't, there's a lot that has to go right to just get an opportunity, just to get on
a lot, yeah,
a radar, to make a living doing something that you love to do. Yeah. It isn't about you. A lot of it. I mean, you have to put the work in. You have to have the commitment. But for me, man, I just know without my parents, without maybe your parents, without a coach here and there giving you a little pee-pee whacking when you needed a little encouragement when you needed it. Teachers. I mean, there's just so much that goes into it that you don't appreciate, I think, when you're younger, because it's all about you. For me, it was all about, I'm doing this.
You nailed it.
It's all fun and games until Lou Lamoriello locks you in a hotel for 2 years.
You nailed it earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
Sheldon, when you said
I call my dad. Another time I went out, I'll tell you another quick story.
Yeah.
Is I went out one night before a game, and I got in. I was living in this hotel that I was telling you guys about. And I went out and got in around midnight, and we went for dinner. Me and another guy on the team went for dinner with these two girls, and it was in New York City. And it was by the time I got back, anyways, night before a game, 11 o'clock curfew. I get in at midnight. No, it wasn't hammered or anything like that. It was just I got in late. Well, the next day we played the Rangers, and I have a good game, and I think I was second star of the game. No big deal, just second star. And after the game, the strength coach comes to me and he says, "Hey, Lou wants to see you up in his office." And I said, "Okay." And I thought I was going up there for a contract extension, right? At least, hey, way to go. I'm thinking it doesn't get better than this. And he comes in, and Lou had his office, his chair in his office sits higher than you sit in your chair across. So he looks higher than he looks bigger than you.
This is exactly
and
what I pictured.
Yep, he had this big chair, right? A big leatherback chair, and it was facing me. He wasn't even facing me. And I sat there for 45 minutes without saying a word. This is an honest to God true story. And he turns around and he says, "Who do you think you?" And I'll keep it edited. He said, "Who do you think you are?" I said, "What?" And he said, "You come home last night after curfew, and you think you're going to come here and be a professional." He goes, "You get back to your hotel tonight. You pack up your things, and you be here." And now it's like midnight, 12:30. He says, "You be here at 6 a.m. I want your pack. You're going down to Albany."
Wow.
He goes, "And I haven't even decided if I'm going to put you there." And so I go home, and now I'm thinking, "Holy fuck! I'm going down to the minors." You know what? I've been in the NHL for a year and a half, and I think now I'm just thinking of finding my groove. Anyways, I get there at 6 a.m. I go to his office, doors locked. I'm sitting outside till 8 a.m. in my truck with my stuff packed. It's raining. My stuff's getting soaked in the back. And I'm sitting. Lou pulls up. Hey, he doesn't say anything. Assistant comes out and grabs me. I go and I sit and I wait for another half hour. He pulls me and he says, he just looks at me, and this is honest to God true story, and he says, "If I send you down to Albany right now, what are you going to tell your dad?" And I just sat there, and I swear to God, I started crying like a baby. I said, "Lou, I made a mistake." He said, "Look, team's on practice at 10 o'clock. He goes, "You get down there." He goes, "I haven't decided what I'm going to do." He goes, "But you better get down there, and you better think about it." And I went down there, and, I think I put my skates on backwards. I mean, I was so nervous. I was so scared.
Wow.
And after that, I went up, and Lou said, did you think, like, what would you tell you? And that, again, was a lesson for me that, this is like my life, and I didn't want to let anybody down because I was taking things for granted. So again, I think it was just a long-winded way of saying, I had all these people along the way that were giving me. He could have easily sent me down, and it would have changed the whole trajectory of my career and my life, probably,
But now I see why they won so many cups.
Yeah.
It's just, that's how that organization and Lou does it. Another real quick story, because I know we got to go, but I'll tell you another real quick thing. I was playing in Montreal. I had set this record for power play goals, had been, all-star game and all this kind of stuff. And the year end had come, and I finished, I think, I don't know, third or fourth or fifth, maybe in the Norris voting, and neither won the Norris. And so I called I didn't have his number, and so I called Lou's assistant, Marie, and I said, "Hey, Marie, do you think I can get Scotty Niedermayer's phone number? I, misplaced it or I erased it." And she said, "Sure." She goes, "Hold on a sec." I'm waiting for a couple minutes. Lou comes on the phone. Now I'm talking, this is like 2005 maybe, or 2007, whatever it was. I mean, I was gone from that organization now for 5 years, right? And I was, I think it was my second All-Star game, or whatever it was. End of that season, I call, Lou gets on the phone and he says, "Hey, Sheldon." I said, "Hey, Lou." And he's like, "You want Scotty's number?" And I said, "Yeah, I just wanted to congratulate him on winning Norris or whatever." He says, he said, "Okay, I'll pass you back to Marie." He goes, "I wanted to tell you, good job this year." He goes, but don't stop and don't get complacent. He goes, you have a tendency to get lazy and complacent. He goes, "I don't want you to do that." He goes, "So keep going, okay?" And I said, "Yes, Lou." Like I was, 18 again.
This guy had to compete against you.
He's my competing.
He was putting a team together to compete against you.
Dude, it was another. I think it just shows you the type of man that Lou Lamoriello is. He's tough. He's all these things, but I'll tell you what, he cares about people, and he changed my life. He changed my career, and he changed my life. And, I'm grateful that I've had these things, because some people don't get that benefit of the doubt or that kind of encouragement or whatever you want to call it.
That all shapes your character,
and I did. It totally did. And I'm thankful for all of it.
I can only imagine you had moved on from the Devils when there was that crossover. I think Lou was the GM the same time as Pat Burns had coaching tenure there.
Yep, I had just gone. Yep.
You would I can only imagine, because that just reeks of Pat Burns so much. He used to phone guys.
Yep.
Fellows would be out past curfew in a bar in Montreal, and someone would bring a phone over to them, and it would be Burns on the line saying, "You fucks, I have eyes everywhere." So I can only imagine the combo of two of them.
That's true. Do you go back to Montreal?
Some older guys didn't want to go. I go back to Montreal once in a while. I've been back a couple times.
Do you still have the restaurant?
4 or 5 years. No.
Okay.
We sold that. So I don't really have any connections there. Some of my best friends still live there. They come to LA, or they come to Edmonton, or when I was playing, they would come to Dallas, they come to Anaheim. So I made some great friends and have some great relationships there. It's just a long way for me to go now. Kids here on the West Coast. And, you said you went back to Tri-Cities. Well, I went and bought a place up in Coeur d'Alene, which is, we used to have to drive through Coeur d'Alene to get to Tri-Cities.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Do you still? No, I do. I was going to ask you, because I saw some Instagram pics, and I didn't know if you had a place there or you just visit there. Maybe.
Yeah, no, I bought a place there. Gretz, I got a few of us up there. There's a good hockey contingent. And when Gretzky was the guy who suggested that I go check this place out, and I'm like, I'm not going to Coeur d'Alene. It's way too close to Edmonton. I played junior hockey in Tri-Cities, and once I left there, I was done with it. Like, I'm not going to Coeur d'Alene. And anyway, that's kind of where I've established roots. It's close enough to where I'm from. It's close enough to come down to LA. It's just,
No, it's great. I played in Boise for a year too, man. I went there all the time. It's not because Boise to Tri-Cities, you can go out of your way and go through Coeur d'Alene if you want, and it was just a great spot. And some of the guys that played on the team, raved about it because they were from the area and they drove there to go golfing and stuff. Well, maybe that's it, Sheldon. Maybe we can meet there sometime, because it's life's short, but it's long. But we're not getting any younger. I'd love to catch up with you soon. Before we go, I want you can even make it quick. But how the fuck did you end up on The Young and the Restless?
I was wondering that too. I was hoping we'd get here.
So look, man, there was only. They had a bunch of stars playing for the Rangers. They had a bunch of young guys playing for the Devils. And, when you're in that market, the NHL has all these things for players to do. Lou hated it. He wanted your focus to be on the puck, right? this is a summer thing, and they said, hey, here's an opportunity for you guys to go on the show and kind of play yourselves. And I thought, great, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to get on a soap opera. Now I'm a soap star. Now I'm a hockey star. I'm a soap star. I'm a model. I thought I was perfect.
Yeah, the model. Then you're.
I was carrying a bag. I was an extra carrying a bag in an airport behind this thing. I was on for like half a second. I'm like, there I am. Freeze it. But it's all my credit. It's all my credit.
No, it's fantastic. I love that. One of the boys back in the day I heard about. I didn't see it live. Of course, I say that. Maybe I do watch. No, but someone recorded it. Right. I remember it was walking in a door or something. I remember seeing the scene.
Yeah.
But listen,
Terry's more of a days man himself.
Well, people did slugs. Yeah. Remember slugs? You used to have to go to that. I was telling the boys about it earlier. We did watch that here and there. But listen, man, it's great to have you on. It's good to talk to you. And anytime, I don't know if I'm in Edmonton next weekend. I'm doing an event with Taran Sandwith. Ever meet Taran? Taran, Nathan Dempsey, a bunch of them. Mark Hurley, Mike Hurley, Boyd Olson, Zenith Komarniski. I'm going to visit all of them. I went out with them a couple weeks ago. I go there a little bit, Sheldon. Gets just some context there. Like I do some public speaking, and then my part of my family's from out there, so I do get there a little bit. Maybe we can hook up there sometime. I just missed you this year. You were there at Christmas, I think.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we'll hook up down the road, but yeah, man, I love you and say hi to your parents. Thanks for having me on. Continued success, man. I love you. You're like a brother to me, and I wish the best for you, man.
Love you too, buddy, and it was great to catch up.
So it's good. Perfect job, please.
Well, we'll talk after this. Maybe I have some ideas. Okay. I'll talk to Jason Momoa. Maybe I got some ideas for you, my friend.
You've got an acting resume. He's got a resume.
That's so funny. I swear to God, I'm sitting here beside my girlfriend. I was in Vegas for a golf tournament last night. I'm sitting at this restaurant in Las Vegas, at a nice restaurant. This lady comes up to me. She goes, oh, my God. I thought you were Jason Momoa, but you're not.
Oh,
wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Is the but you're not really necessary?
I was in the Young and the Restless.
Yeah, right.
Thing is,
when she came up to me, all my friends were impressed for a second. So she's like, are you? And I'm like, big smile on my face. I'm thinking she's going to totally recognize me, big hockey fan. She goes, oh. Not Jason Momoa. Like, oh,
you know what's funny?
Get out of here! I'm eating.
Boys, last year we were downtown. We were at Raymond's eating, and I was telling Jason because it's fucking amazing. You guys haven't met. You're like the same person. He's got he's got native roots. He's about your size. Very similar personalities. He loves hockey, but he played roller. He grew up in Des Moines, Iowa. So I was talking with him. I said, I got a buddy. I said, you got a lot in common. And I was telling him all about that stuff, and I said, if you love hockey, and I said, you're like he lives, it's not far from Malibu anyway, I know that. It's something Hills, but anyway, not Beverly Hills. But why should I even say it on the fucking radio anyway? Have people tracking it down?
Give out his home address.
Well, point being,
bad
Sheldon,
enough you keep trying to give out mine.
Yeah.
I took out a picture to show Jason, and it was Sheldon dressed as him going for Halloween.
That's pretty good.
It was fucking
that's
great.
good. That's gold.
But one day you will. I mean, I had to get Momoa tickets a couple months ago to a Vancouver game, and I'm like,
and he
you
showed
know
up
who
wearing
you
a
are,
beret
right?
jersey, and he fucking made it on bar down and shit.
I said, you can just show up and get them. But I like being able to do him favors.
Yeah, right.
So I just keep doing that. I'm like, and if I still got contacts and I use them, but if I got to, I'll buy them. I don't give a fuck.
Connection.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
just
a connection.
I'm hanging onto that rope. I'm just like hanging on. Please don't actually figure it out that you can just walk into any of these events and they're going to pay you to be there. Yeah. But anyway, that will come too. That will come too. You guys will meet eventually. But Sheldon, thanks again. I really appreciate it. It was great having you on here, man.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, guys. Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. Keep up the great work.
Okay, see you, buddy.
All right, huge thank you to Sheldon Souray for coming on and chatting to us. So glad that worked out. As we were saying before we went to the interview, we were having some trouble locking down the contact stuff, and happily it worked out, and it was great chat with him. I know, Chuck, you're psyched.
I've got my Lou Lamoriello content for life now. Like, he is everything I imagined, and especially the fact that he has this giant leather-backed chair that is set.
That is set to be higher than everyone else.
I've been picturing literally everything like that since I was a kid, so I'm glad to finally have it confirmed.
Yeah, it was great. Definitely great to have all that stuff, and cool to hear those stories. And of course, obviously, when you get someone like Sheldon, that's Terry, you've known for so long, it's cool to have him on that way and get all that stuff. It's
Big
great.
revelation. He broke Radek Bonk's ass.
Yeah, fuck.
I tell you, it's good because Sheldon comes at you from a lot of angles. He's seen what it's like to be a nobody. He's seen what it's like to be a prospect on the fringe.
Yeah.
He's seen what it's like to be in the bad favors of an NHL GM to possibly never get up at a very young age. And then within a couple of years, it all seemed to happen so fast for Sheldon, everything that happened. He's most power play goals in the history of Montreal Canadiens.
No, it's NHL.
That's a what?
It's not. It's not a Montreal record. That is an NHL record. 19 is the NHL record. It's not just the Habs.
Wow, jeez, Mike
It's
Green
not just
know
the-
this?
I was looking it up while we were chatting
It's
to him.
incredible.
And so I don't know
And
if
if you
it's
look
been-
at Jersey, had like 3 goals, 4, 2.
And that's it. Yeah, it's kind of wild
It's
that
a
you look at the
jump.
stats, and I think the most he had prior to joining the Habs was 3 in a season, and then just kind of broke out. And while he was there,
broke out.
15, 12, 26.
It's
and
like if Brooks Orpik did it.
yeah.
Well, he's older, but it's someone like that gets a few goals a year.
And then
One
puts up
thing- 23
23 in Edmonton again after that too. Like he put up some huge numbers, and being on the Habs, and you got the A around that time. He was the assistant captain in Montreal. And,
One thing
and-
I would do when I'd get a new NHL game in the EA Sports in that era is I would trade to get Sheldon Souray in my be a GM mode just because of that power. Like in the video game, you could just rip it and it would go in.
You know what's funny? And he would have, like, when he got drafted, they had hopes, but they knew if nothing, like Sheldon was real tough. He ended up, you watching Montreal was my favorite one was with Darren McCarty. But outside of that, I mean, he had a lot. Sheldon would fight the straight up heavyweights. I knew in junior, if I fought a guy like Wade Belak, for example, I knew that just hanging in there would be a win for us because, the fans would get into it and just me standing up to him. But Sheldon would have every expectation to beat him. Like Sheldon was in that category. Sheldon was one of the toughest players I've ever seen play junior. He just didn't have to drop him as much because we didn't want him to drop him as much. But same thing when he went in. I mean, the guys he fought were killers. He was and Sheldon's a big guy, and I can see how
Momoa sized.
he is. He's a big guy. Like
He's
his
like
hands.
6'4" listed or whatever.
Yeah. He was. It's just some guys have this girth. Like Sheldon's hands. He'd hurt my hand when he shook it, kind of thing. It was no surprise, that he ended up being. Have such a powerful shot, but
that's something we never even talked about. The fact that he played in a couple All-Star games and set records for in the skills comp and stuff.
He's the first. Also, one thing I picked up on: he's the first guy that played in Hershey that didn't bring up Hershey.
Wow.
Never, that was later in his career. But I've always kept.
He was on loan to Hershey
I
during the lockout, right?
I always keep an inventory because Hershey is one of those places where people are like, "Oh, I didn't think I'd end up there, but I loved it." Or,
that would have been a good question.
yeah.
The only reason I think we didn't is because I was going chronologically in my head.
yeah, exactly. We'd have to have him here for 3 or 4 hours.
And then I was like, okay, so in my mind, the next stop in my head was Edmonton, and then it would have been Anaheim. And in those places, Sheldon ended up getting hurt. I didn't feel there was as much interesting. Well,
no. I just keep.
it's
kept
all
an
three of us,
inventory.
but with a guy like Sheldon, I'm going in my head, and you're right.
You want to play the hits. You don't want to.
Yeah.
You know
That's
what I mean?
why I should. Yeah, you're right.
You want to play the hits. You don't want to talk about the
That was
throwaway.
and was that
40
what you were
games in
piping in to
Hershey.
say? Because I kept
No,
forgetting.
I was going to bring
Okay.
up. He got
I didn't
to it.
mean to
anyhow.
cut you off.
No,
Okay.
he got to it anyway. I was going to bring up what just the personnel that he went into in that Jersey era, he went right to it a second after. Danico, Stevens, all those guys, and I was just going to ask him what was it like going into camp with those guys, and he brought it up. He brought it up going into camp out of shape in front of those guys. we got there. It was the whole thing.
Yeah, true enough. And those were some great Lamoriello stories. But I take that as, you can.
He was an investment. Lou saw a lot in him, probably what Sheldon didn't see in himself.
Knew how to play him, too.
Yeah, and he was an investment, and he knew what it took. I mean, it's no accident he ended up saying, "Oh, no, you stay in a hotel and we'll pay for it." That's because Lou wanted eyes on him.
Yeah.
That's, Lou, and that's
I can totally see it, and I know where Lou was coming from.
Yeah.
Sheldon was a bit of a loose cannon. Sheldon was no different than a lot of players in a lot of ways, and he wasn't out there being a total maniac. But Sheldon had a tendency to be lazy. He can he tell you that. Like, I mean, early on, again, I'm not cutting him up. I am cutting him up. I'm not cutting him up on purpose. What I'm saying is that this all channeled into ended up being a good thing.
Yeah.
If Sheldon never came out of it, I just wouldn't bring it up, and I'd say, "Oh, he's a good guy. He's not necessarily, lazy, but he was at times." And Lou saw that.
He had mentioned it himself, but I think that was, that just goes to the testament that, hey, we got this guy. We can get him in the third round, and hey, I think if we do this, and that's what Lou Lamoriello
And you
is.
know
we
what?
do this, and this,
Yeah.
and, a little bit of luck, a lot of work, and we keep an eye on him. He's going to be an NHL player, and he's going to be a consistent NHL player. On a blue line, that was fucking insane, mind you. Like, look at where he was. Like, that Devils era, like, that was defense hockey. That was, like, capital D defense hockey.
It was a neutral zone trap, the birth of it, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I cursed them to
that's
this
the other
day.
thing. They saw him as a big, tough defenseman.
Oh, fuck yeah.
So I don't, if a guy gets, or if a team gets rid of a player, that you see that coming, you'd be like, oh, what a shitty trade. But I just don't think that anybody saw that coming.
It's funny how he blew up as an offensive force at the second he leaves New Jersey. Though.
Yeah.
As if their defensemen were fucking allergic to shooting the puck.
Well, hey, man, it's like anything. He had that cannon. I've often said it. It surprised me, I guess, that it worked out like that, but I don't want to say that, but I knew Sheldon had it in him. It still surprised me. You talk about the history of the Montreal Canadiens and the NHL. That's a long time. If he got 10, it wouldn't have surprised me.
Yeah.
But to get 26 or 27 goals and then to get 19 power play goals for a guy that was never dubbed as like a huge scorer in junior or anything, that is, and I say it as much as it's an accomplishment as anything else. But, the proof's in the pudding. Look, you work hard, kids.
Just say proof or poop is in the pudding.
Poop maybe, but I meant proof. It is. He worked hard. Like Sheldon, I just remember he started as a 3-bag Big Mac, a fucking meal, eating, not caring, drinks every once in a while, good teammate, but not necessarily hard worker, like us all in junior. But Sheldon, now where he is, fuck me, the guy looks 5 years younger than he is. He's in great shape. He's got a great mental, and Sheldon was also never, in my mind, when I played with him, a substance abuser. He just came out and talked about a little bit of painkiller problem he had recently. His dad passed away. That's why I asked him those questions. I read that in an article, so I'm not selling him out by saying that. But Sheldon wasn't. Don't confuse that with like a boozing every day kind of guy. Sheldon was like me, a good time, go out, maybe. Extend the night a little bit. Maybe come in 5 minutes late, but he wasn't like boozing every day. Sheldon would be the type to go, maybe I'll have another Big Mac, that kind of thing. It was just, he was a jovial presence. He was, like, I mean it, especially in Quesnel, like, Sheldon was 220. It looked good on paper, but, a lot of that was baby fat on his stomach, and he didn't do anything to stop that.
Jovial is a hell of a
He was.
word
That was
there.
He'd take over the dressing room with
Big Macs.
a lot of it was leadership, but he just, you're not pushed. In Quesnel, it was a job not to, we had to convince ourselves, we had to stick together and hang out, just not to be on dope every day. A lot of people, I know that dope, weed for the most part, but, that we had to keep ourselves out of our own way a lot.
Your own vices.
And, so while we thought we were doing a good job, you were still, you might not go out that night, but, having fucking 2 large pizzas between you is probably not a good thing either. We just didn't I don't think we knew how to be pros. And if I learned anything from Sheldon's conversation is that there were 2 or 3 times in there that he learned how to be a better pro. Yeah. And most of the time it was Lou Lamoriello telling him that. So
and that's what you heard him say, that like he doesn't, there's no one he respects more than Lou Lamoriello because of the way Lou just was so straightforward and so blunt, and and just got those turnaround moments out of
Guys,
him.
you think it's the same chair that follows him around? He just goes and gets a new high leather back chair every time he gets a new job.
Oh, I don't know. I'd like to hope it's
those are the things I wonder about.
I would like to think that it's an heirloom quality chair and that he's just keeping the chair through. Obviously,
this is something you'd see on the set of a movie based in the 50s.
I just kind of think of going to see Lou Lamoriello the way Seinfeld always portrayed George Steinbrenner. Like I kind of I always just picture like the little George Costanza guys going in, but it's like 6'4" hockey players.
I've always pictured it exactly how Souray said. It's like you're sitting there and he doesn't speak for fucking 20 minutes. I've always pictured that, like getting someone to his office. It's like the principal's office, only you're a grown man and you're twice as fucking terrified.
Yeah, pretty much everything he said wasn't a surprise. Was it?
None
of it was a real surprise. I'm glad he told us.
I don't know. The one that shocked me was the idea of all the boys out working out with the medicine balls and stuff, and Lamoriello just shirtless on the sidelines watching.
I don't know where I read that, but I heard that story because he mentioned two of the guys came straight over from Europe, and I don't know where I read it. It might have been like a Players Tribune article of a retiring guy or something. But one of the two guys didn't have any athletic stuff, and he ended up having to run in like black dress socks.
Wild.
And you know what, guys? I'm going to replace the word. I shouldn't say that Sheldon was lazy at times. He said that, but that's not the right word. It's complacent. That's the word.
Yeah.
Sheldon would get complacent. If he would be comfortable, and then all of a sudden, he'd come up with a goal and say, I can get 20 goals, and he would do it. So Sheldon was a doer. It's just that, because, again, Sheldon was coming from not expecting to ever play a game in the NHL. That when he gets there and he's a regular, if that's in your nature, you tend to get complacent. You're comfortable with it until someone pushes and said, not only are you an NHLer, you could be better, motherfucker.
Yeah.
And, whatever I got to do this. So, lazy's the wrong word. You don't even get anywhere that he was played being lazy. You don't even get to Tri-City being lazy. But, complacency is a different story, and we all got our traits, right?
One of Lou's trademarked catchphrases, safe as death. That's one of his. So complacent, safe, safe as death.
Makes sense. Maybe that's why he took such a interest in Sheldon.
Yeah. We got any hot takes? We got to take it to the tweets.
We had one that we talked about that we said we weren't going to talk about because we talked about it a lot, and I didn't have anything else.
We didn't have anything else
because we decided on late. But I will say something that came up during the show is at the same time we got the punchline to the Radek Bonk story is the same time that Daly scored in overtime to give the Cataracts the herder. So congratulations to Grand Falls Windsor Cataracts.
Nice. Congrats, guys.
They won that one. They tied it up with less than a minute left to send it to overtime, and they won it in overtime. So I had that going on one screen while we were watching the Pens Islanders going on another.
We just talk about how well behaved I was, not like talking about the Pens Isles
I was
game.
Impressed. I was impressed, but I mean there wasn't a whole lot to talk about. It was just
there was a lot. Leo Komarov roofed one.
I'll say as far as the herder. It's not a surprise Grand Falls won. I'm glad Southern Shore got a game, and they went over to OT.
Yeah.
2 games, so that's pretty good. And I mean that because traditionally the West, here in Newfoundland, the West League's been better. I'm not going to spend too much time because a lot of people don't understand what we're talking about. It's it's senior hockey. The end goal would be the Allen Cup, so the Newfoundland version being the herder, the oldest trophy we got, one of them. Just finished today, so hats off to the Grand Falls Cataracts. Not a surprise. It's Kamloops, or Kamloops was the best organization I thought in junior as far as like the combination of fans, prospects, wins, all those things. City, I think Grand Falls is the equivalent on a senior hockey level. Just love the place. They have over 900 season ticket holders, which is fantastic. It's no surprise they won the Allen Cup in 2016, and they're up to their winning ways again. So to my good buddies, the Grand Falls Cataracts, most of them are, congrats guys, and maybe see you next year.
Yeah, and one thing I'll mention to you while we're congratulating the Cataracts on the herder, a couple weeks back the Royals won the Gorman is the and it was just after we had Darren Colburn on the show.
He coached.
He's a coach involved with that, so congratulations to those guys as well. It was around the same time I think that was the same weekend that the West and the East, like each of it was set that it was going to be Cataracts Breakers. I think was around the same time. So.
Corner Brook are just a level down. That's all, and they choose to have there's for different reasons. I guess it would be considered Senior B, which is still a great level. Interesting. They all go out there. They get lots of fans. I mean, what do you want, right? So, Corner Brook, I believe, beat Porter Basque in the final.
Yeah.
But hockey's hockey. If you sell it out and you got some good fans and everybody enjoys it, why not, right? But So the Corner Brook Royals, I think eventually you might see come into the Newfoundland Senior Hockey League again.
Yeah, I'd love to see him back. I think, senior in Newfoundland is such a, I mean, like you say all the time, it's such a strong league going. There's so many great teams. The compete level, the skill level is it's up there, and it's great to watch that kind of hockey and to have those small towns have something like there being Grand Falls, Windsor on a Saturday night when the Cats are in town and flying. It's fun.
All right, I got a hot take. It's great. I got a hot take.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so this is going to be dropping on Tuesday like all the episodes.
All right.
By the time, if you listen to this episode on Wednesday, that Tampa series is going to be tied up.
All right.
There it is.
I don't think that's much of a hot take.
I don't think that's much of a hot take either.
Well, fuck you both. How about that?
No, it's true. I know what you're saying, but it's easy for me to sit here.
Back to back on the road, for fuck's sake.
Earlier, but I think you misunderstood me earlier. Earlier when I said that analytics, Tampa are still way better than Columbus.
Okay.
But I think the reason Columbus is up is emotion, a large part, and I think it's the non-analytic stuff. But do I think Columbus are going to win the series? We never got there. You made these statements like you think me and Mike are saying, no, Columbus are definitely going to win. No, it was earlier you said it too. You dropped the bomb. You said, I'm not sold on them. Yeah. I'm not sold on them either. But I think they're playing it the best way they could. Like, I expected it to be 5-0, 4 straight games. So this is but Tampa are still Tampa, and now they get to fucking bound down the road.
Yeah,
but it's dangerous territory because if you lose one,
Oh yeah,
I think the other thing is that this series, because it's that Tampa Bay team that had 128 points and we're in the conversation of being one of the best regular season teams of all time, the fact that this series is 2-0 the other way, and as definitively as it has been, is, I think, what is the greatest part about playoff fucking hockey.
What do you think?
It's up in the air. Anything can fucking happen over the course of 7 games.
I think the biggest backbreaker in the fucking world could be is if game number 3 goes to like a double OT.
Yeah.
And Columbus gets a softie. What a fucking backbreaker on Tampa.
That's the case. That's whether it's game 3 when you're down 2 or whatever. Any game that goes into overtime in the playoffs, and then it's devastating anyway, especially when it's a softie. Yeah,
anybody can win, and it's going to come down. The thing is with Tampa and Columbus, I think it's strange to say, but Tampa being so good, still think they had the advantage, but it wouldn't surprise me. And the reason, Chuck, I'm saying it as well, I told you I got 5 hockey pools going. The only players that I have in each pool are Tampa Bay and Winnipeg players. So I got to really hope for a major comeback. So even though, major. Winnipeg, why? I just thought Winnipeg underachieved all year. It didn't seem like they were in full gear, and I thought they were the Vegas Knights this year.
I
thought
had the Blues. In our preview show, I had Winnipeg going to the finals, and I
did too. I had them winning the cup.
And Jesus, they fell off a cliff, and a huge cliff at that. Yeah. I had St. Louis in 5 in my bracket, but I also had Tampa in 5. So what the fuck do I know?
Well, even
Boston.
But the other thing, I lost, I don't know how much, 10 times my bet the other night. I had the Leafs. I went on Bodog, and I figured I'd cover myself. I thought the Leafs were going to win the first game. Well, just to be different, it was good odds. I can't say I guaranteed they were going to win, but I really felt strongly because everybody was picking Boston. So I picked tie after regulation, Leafs by 1, Leafs by 2. $50, so that final goal. But I was going to win if it was the Leafs by 2.
Yeah.
Oh, I also had under 4.5.
Yeah.
So it was 3-1, and I had the Leafs by 2. So these were astronomical odds.
Yeah.
So I threw 50 on one. It was $600. Or maybe that was the combined. Anyway, I lost $650 on that goddamn empty net goal. And imagine this. I picked Toronto, but I lost because they won by too many. Does that make any sense in any playoff era?
In
any playoff era ever.
So John Tavares' empty net goal cost you $600.
It did. Well, it cost
fucking bill him. He's good for it.
Yeah,
I'll get more of his sticks. Yeah. I'll get more of his sticks. My buddy Dave Roper is the equipment manager up there. So
I'm not even joking. Send him an invoice from Ferdinand
at the beginning of the year.
Least he can do is come on in the summer at this rate.
well, he'll be hopefully in town. He's supposed to be in town next fall, right, for training camp. We'll get him out then.
Oh, I was going to say I already got his sticks. I went through the dressing room and took a couple. You see that Bermuda fucking ball hockey tournament? That's a Tavares special.
Holy fuck. The next time you're going up, can I give you a list? Can I give you a list of shit to get for me?
What happens is my buddy's the equipment, but they're, to be totally honest, they were used. So a lot of these guys they're free all the time, so they might use a stick for a game or two, and then they just put it in the donation bin or whatever it might be. So rope is my
it's less that you have a Tavares stick and more that you have a stick that should be some sick kids.
Yeah, I have a used stick. I have a used stick.
Yeah.
Hey, not that I don't pay for it either in my own way. Rope Dog's a good buddy, and the boys are aware of it.
So you're not running in and like heisting these things.
This isn't like me with the picture of Bob Cole at the curling club last night. That I saw a picture of Bob Cole as president of the St. John's Curling Club while I was there, and I plotted this big thing to steal it, and then I decided that the smarter thing to do was tell everybody I was going to, so that drunk me couldn't. I figure if I told everybody I was going to, then I couldn't actually do it later when I got drunk.
Instead of Ocean's 11, it's Hoser 11.
Yeah, and so it's still there. It's still hanging up in the curling club. Someone confirmed today that I didn't
you can be framed so easily, Mike. I could go steal that tomorrow, and then you're exactly.
I should say, rope. I come on. I never really want to talk about it, but seeing I said that, I should say I come home with at least 10 shirts for kids as well. There's a lot of reasons, but I've starting when I got drafted. I've worked with various organizations. For example, the Head Mental Health Newfoundland. So often I'll come back with people ask for stuff for donations and that, and I hate being approached for money so much on Facebook. You think it's a buddy that you wanted to talk to after 20 years, and he's like, hey, by the way, do you have this? Do you have Ron McLean's number? Do you have Don Cherry's number? Do you have... So I try to bring these things back, pick my own charities, bring them down. The Janeway, for example, show up with a shirt yourself signed by Wendell Clark or John Tavares or Austin Matthews, and the kids fucking love it. So Rope knows that. If it was just for me, I wouldn't be doing it. I'm not just saying that because I'm on the air. People that know me know it.
Hey, Tier, I've got a question. Do you have Ron McLean's number?
Yeah, you're not getting it. You boys, you wouldn't believe it. Other than I don't want to sell people out, you wouldn't believe the messages I get. Do you know how many times a week I get asked for Jason Momoa's number?
Oh, I would imagine many.
I'd say
five of which by Souray.
Not less than a half dozen in a week, in a year maybe, at least a year. Oh, yeah, or at least something from him. Hey, Terry, it's the so-and-so society. Just wondering if your friend's in town. Well, who's my friend? Jason, just wondering if he wanted to drop by and we were going to give him a free shirt. If he stays where, and then there's if what? Yeah. If he stays, and this is the thing. I nor Jason are adverse to charity work, really at all. And that guy's one of the most charitable people I know, with his time, with his money, with everything. But to look down at your inbox and to see 78 messages in a row of someone wanting something, and I only got a glimpse of it. And I'm not saying me, I'm saying him. But although I do get that between tickets and people's numbers and everything else, because a lot of people see me as a contact machine. You know how many times a week I get asked to do these fucking pyramid schemes? Because people see it, right? They're like, "Oh, Terry got a lot of contacts." If there's anything I'm known to have these contacts that sit there that might be of the celebrity status, but that's why I know them. Like, a lot of them, I'm not on their level. I'm not on the fucking level Ron McLean is. Are you fucking kidding me? Even Souray, Jason Momoa, but they're my buddies, and they might like hockey, and they might like about a book, and I'm acquaintances with them, and some of them I'm friends with. But that's the reason I'm friends with them, because I don't ask them for their fucking time all the time. A lot of people, they won't say it. Ron would never say it, but when I'm with Ron and we go to eat or we go, there's something to be said for that. Like all people want, can I have a picture? Can I have? And these guys are great with it, and that's being a leader too in another way. Ron, I don't know how the fuck he does it. He doesn't complain ever. He never has. I'm not shitting you when I say this. And he'll do what he can for everybody. He'll sign every last autograph if there's fucking 10,000 people.
I've seen him do it.
Yeah.
He was down at the hometown hockey at Kitty Vitty, and I just saw him swarmed. And I did a lap and went around and looked at all of the things, and I went back, and he was still fucking swarmed, and I did another lap and all of that, and I was like, wow, this
he'll
guy
say, Terry, if that's the price you pay.
And then you got back and you said, okay, fuck this, enough of it, and pushed all the kids aside, and we're like, run! And that's why Terry won't give you his fucking number.
No,
I'd just be sending him resumes. Hey, do you need an assistant?
He'll say, if that's the price you pay, then, I'm rich with my time, and I'm glad about that.
Wow, and that's great.
That's the way he is. And when I say he, it's Ron, but I don't mean to be sitting here and complaining about it, but you can imagine, guys, and we pick charities. What's the definition of charity? I'd much rather people give their time. I always have. I hate seeing that Facebook man. Hey, buddy, haven't seen you in a while. Do you have $350? Oh God, yeah, right. But when there's a personal, or if it's Alan Hawko or something, and he loves the Leafs, and he's going to say, "Hey, T-Bone, next month, I'm going to a Leaf game. I'll give you some signed Republic of Doyle stuff for your parents or who. There's ways to do it.
Yeah.
There's ways to butter people up. But I just find in Jason's world, I was his personal assistant for a little while. I've never seen anything like it, guys. I've never seen anything like it.
All I'm picturing is like, hey, Terry, can we get a shot of Jason eating some fries outside of the truck and put it on our side?
People have asked me for, guys, multiple people have asked me for his underwear and been totally serious. Totally serious.
Fuck.
Totally serious.
Multiple.
But you got to think motives, right? So you're thinking multiple, and some of them are guys because they sell them on eBay for $10,000, right? There's that going on. I don't think they're going to make love with the underwear, but that I get a lot of that, man.
There's a lot to unbox here.
When I say I get a lot of it, I'm saying when I was Jason's assistant, people aren't asking me that shit.
How the fuck
I get asked
were
for
you
tickets
going to get
and shit
Jason
like
Momoa's drawers in the first place?
Just grab him. What do you mean? I'm his assistant. I'm in his bedroom. Like, I'm not sleeping in there, but I got to go into like. We went to
There's
UK.
access there. Yeah,
well,
yeah.
there's anytime
Hotels
you got
and all that
access
kind
to
of-
somebody. We went to the UK together. We're staying in the same hotel. I'm not saying that I'm going to fucking consider it, but this is what pops into people's minds. You got to realize a lot of people. He's got like 10 million Twitter followers. I'm not even saying a lot
he's
of
not
them.
even on Twitter. That's the best part. Is like he's got a Twitter account, doesn't use it at all, and still has like a fucking million.
Right. So
people.
on Instagram, a lot of these, I'm not talking about people that I know. The vast majority aren't, but there are people I know like around here that if I told you, you would be surprised. Saying like, do you mind if Jason comes by the school for 6 hours today to talk to the kids? Buddy, maybe ask for a half hour. Maybe start at a fucking half hour. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we're not charitable or anything. It's just a lot of, and Jason, I've never seen anything like it. I was getting a mass amount of messages for everything. For Terry, can you clip some of his hair?
We're down a phys ed teacher, and the sub list is light. What's Jason at today?
Hey, man.
We have gone off the rails here.
Well, now,
we
that's
have gone completely off the rails. People
So,
are asking people to steal underwear. And sell them.
I'm still kind of hung up on that one.
I got a lot of questions.
Yeah, guys, I wouldn't even know. I'd have to sit here and think about like every day, but that was next level. You get you talk Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm getting Game of Thrones fans sending me messages. Like when I was working with him, he was my personal assistant. It was the hardest thing was going through.
You were his personal.
Oh my God, dyslexia. Dyslexia.
That'd be fucking amazing.
When I was his assistant, I mean, like, but just I think what you're blown away by is I say I get these messages, getting 3 or 4. I was getting like 300 messages a day, like. At least sometimes 1,000, because I don't have a closed account, right? So, because I got it out there, because for me, I'm in the middle. I'm not a celebrity or anything, but around here, I got enough Montreal Canadiens fans. I got enough people that follow the book, and it helps me to put myself out there.
Yeah.
And I got my email. I even got my phone number on Facebook, because it doesn't get too crazy with me. But with Jason. Right, so people couldn't get to Jason, but they then quickly found out who's that guy with him, who's that guy with no dudes, is that a hockey player, which hockey player, right? And then, all of a sudden, I got fucking hundreds of messages in my inbox, and a lot of it, can I have his toenails? Can I have? Oh yeah, a lot of people.
This is the most bonkers.
This transcends hockey or movies. Or anything. You're talking about in a world of, you don't even have to say celebrity.
Yeah.
In this world of social media and instant gratification and, an autograph means I'm famous. If I get his autograph, not me, I'm just saying these people, they want, their picture. They want, what can I do? One guy, man, sent me a message and he said, just tell me where you are at any point in time. I'm from Detroit. And he said, I'll fly in. You don't even have to say. He offered me, I'm not going to say who it is. So, I was offered $500 to just say, this is where I'm going to be in 2 days with Jason Momoa. And we're definitely going to be here. And that was it. The guy said, when I get there, I'll track him down. You just tell me. And I was like,
wow.
oh, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Well, I was like, no, I can't do
Is he
that.
gonna assassinate him? Or
Like, no,
that's
it's just
really creepy.
I showed
to
Jason.
me.
I showed Jason. I'm like, he goes, yeah. What? I said, what? Isn't that weird? He goes, what the fuck? Do you think I expected you to take the money? Of course you didn't take the money. I'm like, no, but do you think it's weird that people are offering me money for that? Like, but no, it's just totally, I showed him all that stuff.
Yeah,
He's just like, yeah, it's normal. So his normal is
also, yeah, like he's in a world where that's his normal. But fuck. Okay.
Wow.
That is something else.
All right, we have once again. I stress we have gone off the fucking rails. At the end of this episode.
Little bit.
If anybody's
what are you gonna do? It's a talk show. We talk.
Yeah, we do that for sure. And
yeah.
you know what? We're gonna come back and do it again next week, and we're gonna talk at you about hockey.
Hopefully not used drawers next week. Hopefully a little light on the used drawers segment.
You know what? How about this? We touched on it. Next week, I'll try to come in with the best with my top 10 messages and stories from Jason Momoa. How's that?
I love it.
When I have
I'm a
time.
big.
I look forward to that.
Big top 10 guy.
And so, in the meantime, if you do want to, find us all on social media, I'm at Hickey, Mike.
I'm at Smokes and Doors, and I am also confused.
I'm Terry Ryan 20 on one and Terry Ryan 2020 on the other, Twitter and Instagram. I'm not sure which.
It's Instagram is 2020 because it's like vision. That's how I remember it.
Okay.
It's Instagram's 2020
Terry Ryan 2020.
because it's a visual medium. That's how I remember that one when I have to. And it's weird that I remember it better than you do now at this point.
No, it is weird.
But thanks everybody, and keep listening to at 3MI Podcast, and of course now you can find us 3MIPodcast.com, and you can buy some stuff hopefully, and if you like it and all those things, and we'll be back next week to talk at you about hockey. Go Leafs, go.
Why do you hang around with the worst crowd, the worst crowd, the worst crowd?